Hey guys, tonight we're going to gently close our eyes in the 21st century and wake up in a time so distant it defies easy imagination. We are journeying deep into the Ice Age, to a world lit only by fire and stars, to discover what a normal day was really like for our ancestors 50,000 years ago. Imagine, we are lying on the cold, hard floor of a limestone cave. The air, thin and sharp, smells of damp earth, the ghosts of 1,000 ancient campfires, and the close, musky scent of other sleeping bodies. This isn't a world of clean sheets and quiet bedrooms. This is the dawn of humanity, and survival is the only thing on the agenda. Before you lies not a city or a town, but a vast, wind-swept tundra stretching to a horizon of jagged, ice-covered mountains. But in this immense and brutal landscape, a flicker of warmth persists. It's the faint, stubbornly glowing embers of a fire, and huddled around it is a small band of people. Your family. They are us, and we are them. The genetic survivors whose daily struggles paved the way for every single thing we know today. Over tens of thousands of years, these people have evolved to read the wind, to understand the secret language of animal tracks, to coax life from a frozen landscape. They have witnessed the slow crawl of glaciers and stared into the eyes of beasts that now exist only in fossil records. So what was it truly like to be them? What did they think about as they woke to that profound, prehistoric cold? And if we could live just one of their days, would we recognize the humanity in their hopes and fears? Thanks to a convergence of fossil evidence, ancient climate data, and genetic archaeology, tonight we can piece together that story and live through one of those days together. Frankly, if you were dropped here without your modern sensibilities, you'd probably freeze solid before you even had a chance to complain about the lack of Wi-Fi. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. That small click sends a big signal to the algorithm. That long-form, serious educational content still matters. And to me, it's an incredibly meaningful show of support. Thank you so much for helping keep this channel going strong. It always fascinates me to see where you're all tuning in from. Let me know in the comments where you are in the world and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your return to consciousness is not a gentle drift, but a sharp, unwelcome yank from the depths of sleep. There is no snooze button here, no gradual awareness of the morning. There is only the cold. It's a physical presence, a predator that has crept into the rock shelter while the fire slept, and it is sinking its teeth deep into your bones. You lie curled on your side, one arm tucked under your head for a pillow, the hard-packed earth unforgiving beneath you. Your blanket is a stiff, heavy animal hide, probably from a giant deer or a bison, and its familiar gamey smell is the first thing you register. It's less of a comforting duvet and more of a slightly flexible slab of leather that smells faintly of old smoke and unwashed hair. You're not alone. You are one piece of a larger, breathing organism, the clan, huddled together for shared warmth. The body pressed against your back is your brother's. You can feel the rhythmic, slow rise and fall of his chest. Your sister's hair is tickling your cheek, and a small child, a nephew perhaps, is wedged between you and your mother. This sleeping arrangement is a foundational piece of human technology, as important as any stone tool. Without this communal furnace of shared body heat, the night's deep freeze would be lethal. Anthropologists still debate the exact size and composition of these family groups, but the general consensus is that you're living with somewhere between 15 and 30 of your closest relatives. The modern concept of personal space has yet to be invented. Here, intimacy and survival are the same thing. Your sleep itself was likely different from the solid 8-hour block we strive for. Some researchers, looking at pre-industrial societies, theorize that a segmented sleep pattern was common, with a period of wakefulness in the middle of the night. But even more fundamental is the state of your sleeping mind. It's never fully offline. Part of your brain remains a vigilant sentinel, attuned to the slightest unfamiliar sound. A snapped twig outside the cave, a shift in the wind's howl, the distant cry of a predator. These are the alarm clocks of the Pleistocene. Scientific evidence from studying the sleep patterns of modern hunter-gatherers suggests that their sleep is often lighter and more frequently interrupted than that of people in industrialized societies. Deep, vulnerable REM sleep is a luxury you can't always afford. You're in a perpetual state of light doze, a sleep-wake state that allows for near-instant reaction. A shiver runs through you, a violent, uncontrollable tremor. It's not just the cold, it's your body's desperate primal command. Wake up, get warm, or die. This is the first and most important thought of every single day. The sun is not yet up. The world outside the mouth of your shelter is a wash of deep, inky indigo, the stars still sharp and mercilessly bright in the frozen sky. The real beginning of your day, the moment that separates the terror of the night from the hope of the morning, hasn't happened yet. It awaits the revival of the clan's heart, its soul, its most precious possession, the fire. And as you feel the bodies around you begin to stir with the same cold-induced urgency, you know that task is only moments away. You open your eyes. There's no sudden flood of sunlight, no gentle morning glow filtering through a window. The first thing you see is a familiar, comforting silhouette. The jagged mouth of your rock shelter, a ragged hole punched into the darkness. It's a frame for the world outside, which is currently a canvas of deep pre-dawn grey. The light is faint, indirect, and has a cold, liquid quality to it, just enough to give shape to the cavern's interior. The deep blackness behind you, in the belly of the cave, remains absolute. You know from experience that this is the front porch of your home. The true dark depths of the cave system are a different world, a place of spirits and silence that you rarely enter. It's a common misconception that our ancestors lived deep underground. The quirky truth is that most daily life happened right here, in the habitable zone near the entrance, where there was ventilation from the fire and a little natural light. A wave of physical sensations follows your first sight. A dull, persistent ache radiates from your hip, the one pressed all night against a cleverly disguised rock. Your neck is stiff, a consequence of using your own bundled-up arm as a pillow, and a deep, penetrating chill has settled into your joints. Scientific evidence for this daily discomfort is written directly into the bones of your ancestors. Skeletal remains from this period, even from individuals who would be considered young today, often show advanced signs of osteoarthritis and wear and tear from a life of hard physical labor and sleeping on the ground. A 30-year-old's joints might look like a modern senior citizen's. You are living that reality. There are no memory foam mattresses in the Pleistocene, and your body pays the price every single morning. Your gaze softens, and the sleeping lumps around you resolve into familiar people. That's your mother's profile, her sharp chin and strong brow visible even in the gloom. The small, restless sleeper kicking at your legs is a cousin's child. You can count them in the dimness, the slow, rhythmic rising and falling of their chests under the heavy hides. This is your entire world. It's a mainstream historical fact that for most of human history, our primary social unit was the small, mobile band. You know every single one of these 15 or so people intimately, their strengths, their smells, their particular way of snoring. You are connected by blood, and more importantly, by a web of absolute, unquestioning interdependence. The silence of the night is beginning to fray at the edges, replaced by the subtle soundtrack of a waking camp. The first sound is a soft, wet cough from an elder near the back. It's a sound you hear often, a reminder of the constant damp and the smoke-filled air of the shelter. Then a baby, sensing its mother is stirring, lets out a fretful whimper, a tiny noise that is nonetheless instantly answered by a soothing murmur and the rustle of a hide being adjusted. Someone else groans softly as they stretch, the sound a universal expression of morning stiffness that echoes across 50 millennia. It's a slow, organic awakening, not dictated by a clock, but by the shared misery of the cold and the dawning of collective purpose. Your own thoughts begin to coalesce, but they are not complex. There is no to-do list, no worrying about yesterday's mistakes or planning for next week. Your internal monologue is a simple, powerful, and primal checklist. Warmth. The need is so profound, it's a physical pain. Water. Your mouth is dry, your tongue thick. Food. A hollow ache is starting to grow in your stomach. Scholars continue to debate the very nature of Paleolithic consciousness, questioning how much of their mental landscape was occupied by the kind of abstract, long-term planning that defines modern life. But for you, in this moment, the present is overwhelming. The future extends only as far as the next meal and the next fire. Your world is beautifully, terrifyingly simple. Your only job today, as it was yesterday, is to stay alive. And that job begins with getting up. With a grunt of effort, you push yourself into a sitting position. The movement is stiff, your back protesting the transition. The heavy bison hide slides from your shoulders, pooling in your lap. And the immediate consequence is a shocking, full-body thermal assault. The air inside the shelter is only marginally warmer than the frozen landscape outside, and it now blankets your bare torso in a layer of icy goosebumps. You pull a smaller, more supple deer hide around your shoulders, a meager but necessary defense against the biting cold. The sensation is a brutal, effective alarm clock, shaking off the last vestiges of sleep and forcing you into the present moment. Your body is a finely tuned instrument for survival, and right now, it's screaming at you to generate heat. You rise to a crouch and make your way toward the mouth of the cave, your bare feet silent on the dusty stone floor. Near the entrance, a shallow depression in the rock holds a skim of collected rainwater, a thin layer of ice crusting its edges. This is your bathroom sink. You crack the ice with a knuckle and scoop up a handful of the frigid water, splashing it onto your face. The shock is breathtaking, literally. It makes your teeth ache and your skin burn, but it washes away the gritty feeling of sleep and makes you feel, for a moment, sharp and alive. You don't have soap or a towel. You just let the icy droplets cling to your skin and hair, knowing they will soon evaporate. Next to the water pool lies another part of your morning routine, a small bundle of thin willow twigs. You pick one up and chew on the end, fraying the fibers until they form a soft, brush-like tip. You then methodically scrub this chew stick against your teeth. It's a habit you learned as a child by watching your elders. There's no concept of dental enamel or cavities, only the practical knowledge that this action helps remove the stringy bits of meat from last night's meal and eases the dull ache that sometimes settles in your jaw. It might seem primitive, but scientific analysis of calcified plaque on the teeth of both Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens provides direct evidence for this practice. Archaeologists have found microscopic fragments of wood fibers and non-foody plants embedded in this ancient dental calculus, proving that our ancestors were actively engaging in some form of oral hygiene. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. As you stand and stretch, your body tells the story of a hard life. A silvery puckered scar runs the length of your forearm, a souvenir from a slip of a flint knife a few years back. Your knee sometimes clicks when you walk, a reminder of a bad fall during a hunt in your youth. Like everyone else in your clan, your skin is a landscape of old wounds, insect bites, and the occasional rash. You are also a host. It is a mainstream historical fact that parasites were a constant and unavoidable part of life. Internal worms from undercooked meat and external lice living in your hair and hides were your lifelong companions. Life expectancy is brutally short. Reaching the age of 40 would make you a revered and ancient elder, a living library of precious knowledge. Most don't make it that far, succumbing to infections, injuries, or the simple grinding wear and tear of a physically demanding existence. You run a hand over your skin, rubbing away a patch of dirt. Historians still argue whether early humans had any concept of soap. While they certainly didn't have saponified fats, some theories propose they might have used specific plants with cleansing properties, like soapwort, which lathers naturally when crushed in water. The more likely, if less appealing, reality is that hygiene consisted of abrasion. A good scrub with sand and water in a nearby river was probably the height of cleanliness. For now, the splash of icy water and a quick rub with the heel of your hand will have to do. The day's first, most personal chores are done. Now, your attention turns outward, toward the single most important task of the morning, reviving the heart of your small world. Your personal chill is forgotten as you turn your focus to the communal heart of the camp. In the center of the main living space, sheltered from the worst of the wind, is a shallow, stone-lined pit. Right now, it looks like a dead thing, a circle of cold, gray ash. But you know that buried deep within that insulating blanket is the single most important piece of technology your people possess. It's not just a fire. It is the fire. It is a living, breathing member of the clan, an entity that must be fed and cared for, and which, in return, cares for all of you. It is your guardian against the night's predators, your kitchen for making tough meat edible, your workshop for hardening spear points, and the warm, glowing center of your social universe. To let it die completely would be more than an inconvenience. It would be a catastrophe, a profound failure. An older woman, perhaps your mother's aunt, is already crouched beside the pit. Her movements are slow, deliberate, and imbued with the reverence of a sacred ritual she has performed thousands of times. She uses a flat piece of bark to gently scrape away the top layer of ash. You and the others watch in silent anticipation. This is a delicate operation, too rough, and she could smother the precious heat. With surgical precision, she reveals what she was looking for. A small cluster of deep, cherry-red embers, glowing with the stored heat of yesterday's blaze. They pulse faintly in the pre-dawn gloom, a tiny pocket of life in a frozen world. She leans in close, her face illuminated by their soft internal light, and begins to blow. It's not a powerful gust, but a long, slow, and incredibly steady exhalation of air, a life-giving breath aimed at the very heart of the embers. A tiny wisp of smoke, smelling of dry wood and potential, curls upwards. She reaches for a prepared bundle of tinder she had tucked into her hide wrap. It's a carefully collected mix of the driest moss, shredded cedar bark, and a piece of what you know as hoof fungus. This quirky shelf-like fungus, known today as Fomes fomentarius or amadou, is a fantastic fire starter, able to catch a spark and smolder for hours, making it a prized possession for fire transport and creation. She gently places the tinder bundle against the now brightening embers. The smoke thickens. She continues her steady, patient breath. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happens. Then a single, tiny, almost invisible yellow flame flickers into existence. It is impossibly fragile, a ghost of a flame that you feel could be extinguished by a careless sigh. The old woman doesn't stop. She protects it with her cupped hands, continuing to breathe life into it, offering it whisper-thin twigs no bigger than your finger. The tiny flame licks at the new fuel, hesitates, and then catches. It grows, connecting with another twig, and then another. A soft, welcome crackle breaks the morning silence. A collective, unspoken sigh of relief ripples through the waking clan. The psychological shift is palpable. The raw, primal fear of the cold and the dark begins to recede, beaten back by the growing circle of light and warmth. This is the true sunrise for your people. It's a mainstream historical fact that the controlled use of fire dates back hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million years. But it's this daily maintenance, this ability to keep a flame alive across days and seasons, that was a revolutionary social tool. Archaeological evidence from sites like Kasem Cave in Israel shows ancient hearths with compacted layers of ash built up over generations, indicating a single spot that served as the home's focal point for millennia. The old woman now adds larger sticks, and the fire responds with a confident roar, casting dancing shadows on the cave walls and painting your faces in hues of orange and gold. The day has officially begun. Scholars still argue about the profound neurological impact of mastering fire, suggesting it may have fundamentally rewired our brains, allowing for longer periods of social interaction after dark, which in turn spurred language development and cultural transmission. As you hold your hands out to the wonderful, life-affirming heat, you don't think about any of that. You just feel the deep, instinctual comfort that comes from knowing you have survived another night. The fire is awake, and so is your world. The growing warmth from the fire finally pushes the deep chill from your bones, replacing it with a creeping, hollow ache in your gut. Your body, having spent the night consuming its own reserves to stay warm, is now demanding fuel. But you don't walk over to a pantry or think about what you'd like to eat. The very concept of breakfast as a distinct and expected meal doesn't exist. You eat when there is food, and you don't when there isn't. It's that simple. This morning, you are fortunate. The remains of the last successful hunt are still available. Your mother reaches into a leather pouch stored in a cool, dry crevice of the rock wall and pulls out several dark, stiff strips of meat. It's bison from a kill nearly a week ago. She hands you a piece. It's cold, hard, and deeply unappetizing by modern standards. You put one end in your mouth and begin to chew. It's an exercise for your jaw muscles. The meat is tough, leathery, and impregnated with the smoky flavor of the fire it was dried over. There is no salt to enhance the flavor, no spices, just the pure, gamey taste of the animal. It's a slow, laborious process, gnawing and grinding the preserved muscle fibers down until they are soft enough to swallow. But with every chew, you are releasing a precious cargo of fat and protein, the high-octane fuel your body craves. This strip of dried jerky is a testament to another revolutionary technology: food preservation. Your clan understands that a large kill is a temporary glut of resources that must be made to last. It is a mainstream historical fact that early humans employed various methods to preserve food. Meat would be cut into thin strips and hung on racks near the fire to be slowly dehydrated and smoked, or left out in the sun and wind in drier climates. In colder regions, some groups might have even used natural deep freezers, burying caches of meat in the permafrost. These techniques were crucial for surviving lean times, bridging the gap between successful hunts. You are, quite literally, eating yesterday's foresight. While you work on your piece of jerky, a child is happily munching on a handful of dried berries that were collected weeks ago, and one of the elders is cracking open a nut with a stone, meticulously picking out the fatty meat inside. This morning's meal highlights one of the most significant ongoing discussions in paleoanthropology. Historians still argue fiercely about the exact ratio of meat to plants in the Paleolithic diet. The popular image is of the mighty mammoth hunter, a pure carnivore. But the reality was far more complex and varied dramatically based on location and season. In this cold, steppe environment, big game is the most calorie-dense prize, but the daily, reliable sustenance often came from the less glamorous foraging efforts of the group: the tubers, nuts, seeds, and small animals that formed the bedrock of your food supply. The scientific evidence for this dietary debate is often found in the very chemistry of your bones. Isotope analysis of ancient human skeletal remains allows scientists to reconstruct prehistoric diets. By measuring the ratios of stable isotopes like carbon-13 and nitrogen-15 in the bone collagen, researchers can determine the proportion of proteins that came from terrestrial plants, marine sources, or different types of animals. The results show a huge spectrum of diets, from the heavily meat-based menus of northern Neanderthals to the more varied plant-rich diets of Homo sapiens in more temperate African environments. Your own bones, were they to be analyzed in 50,000 years, would tell a story of a life fueled by the large herbivores of the frozen plains. But for now, that story is simply your breakfast. A tough, smoky, and deeply satisfying piece of meat that promises you the energy to face the day ahead. The last tough, stringy piece of bison jerky is finally ground down and swallowed. The gnawing emptiness in your stomach has been replaced by a solid, reassuring weight. With the immediate internal needs of your body met, your focus shifts to the external world. It's time to read the morning news. You walk to the mouth of the rock shelter, the place where your small, warm world of fire and family meets the vast, indifferent wilderness. The sun is just now breaching the horizon, a sliver of brilliant, painful light that slices across the immense grey landscape. The air it illuminates is so cold and clear that it seems to sparkle, every suspended ice crystal catching the dawn. First, you look up. Your eyes, accustomed to the gloom, squint against the nascent daylight. The sky is the front page, and its headlines are written in the language of clouds. Today they are high, thin, and wispy, stretched out like pulled wool by a wind you can't yet feel. This is good news. It speaks of a stable air mass, a day that will be brutally cold, but likely free of the heavy, blinding snow that can make a hunt impossible. Had the sky been a low, bruised purple blanket, the day's plans would have been drastically different. Short, cautious forays for firewood and water, but nothing more. This sky, however, gives a green light. It's a day for travel, a day for opportunity. Next, your gaze drops to the ground. The earth around your shelter is a detailed report of the night's activities, a story written in the mud and frost. You scan the area with a practiced, analytical eye. There are the familiar scuffed tracks of your own clan from yesterday, but overlaid on them are fresh signs. A delicate dotted line of prints reveals where a snow fox, drawn by the scent of your camp, had a hopeful late-night prowl. More importantly, down by the frozen creek bed, you see a series of huge, three-toed impressions. A woolly rhinoceros passed by in the dark, its immense weight pressing deep, clear prints into the hardened mud. Your heart quickens slightly. The tracks are fresh. The animal is close. This is valuable, actionable intelligence. But a few yards away, you see something else that brings a knot of caution to your gut. A single, massive, round print, its edges softened by a dusting of frost. A cave lion. It's not heading toward you, and the track is from hours ago, but its presence is a stark reminder that you are not the only hunters on this landscape. You are also the hunted. The science of ichnology, the study of fossilized tracks and traces, confirms exactly what you are doing in this moment. That a simple footprint can reveal a creature's species, its size, its direction of travel, and even its speed. The ground is a library of stories for anyone who knows how to read it. Finally, you listen. You close your eyes for a moment, tilting your head to filter the sounds on the wind. It's not just about what you hear, but the quality of the silence between the sounds. The usual chattering of small birds in the sparse, hardy bushes is present. Another good sign. An absence of their noise would suggest a predator lurking nearby, a silence of fear. In the distance, the lonely caw of a raven echoes across the tundra. Is it just a raven, or is it calling to its mate, perhaps circling over a recent kill? You store the information away. The wind itself, whispering through the rock formations, carries scents. You can smell the sharp, clean scent of the coming sun on the frozen earth, the faint, resinous aroma of the hardy pines down valley, and, yes, a very faint, almost imperceptible musky scent. It's the smell of a large herd of herbivores, perhaps bison or wild horse, somewhere upwind. This entire process of reading the sky, the ground, and the air takes less than a minute, but it is the most critical intellectual exercise of your day. It's a mainstream historical fact that while your Paleolithic brain was anatomically identical to a modern one, it was tuned to a completely different purpose. Where we process abstract data from screens, your mind was a supercomputer for environmental pattern recognition. Archaeologists and cognitive scientists still debate the degree to which this deep ecological knowledge was consciously articulated in language, or if it operated on a more intuitive, subconscious level, a gut feeling built from a lifetime of total immersion. It's a skill still seen in the quirky and astounding abilities of modern natural navigators, like certain Pacific islanders who can detect the presence of a distant atoll by the way ocean swells refract around it. For you, this isn't a party trick. It's the foundation of your survival strategy. The sky says go. The ground says a rhino is near, but a lion was too. The wind says a herd is somewhere over that ridge. The morning news has been read. Now you must decide what to do with it. You carry the morning's intelligence back to the growing warmth of the fire. Others are there now, awake and alert, their faces painted in the flickering orange light. You don't need to make a grand announcement. Your report is delivered in a language far older than words. You meet the gaze of the man who is, for all intents and purposes, the group's leader. He's not a king or a chief, not in any modern sense. His authority isn't inherited. It's earned daily through a combination of experience, success in the hunt, and a quiet, confident charisma. He's your father's older brother, a man in his late 30s with a road map of scars on his face and an aura of immense competence. You communicate what you saw with a simple gesture, a downward point to the ground, a sweep of the hand indicating the direction of the creek bed, and then you hold up 3 fingers and tap your nose, a sign for the rhino's horn. You then make a different gesture, a splayed hand like a paw, and point in the other direction, your expression flat, indicating the coldness of the lion's track. This is the morning meeting. There is no conference table, no whiteboard, no agonizing over spreadsheets. It is a swift, efficient, and almost entirely silent exchange of critical information. The air is thick with unspoken understanding, a collective consciousness honed by a lifetime of living and working together. The leader processes your report, his eyes distant for a moment as he consults the vast mental map of this territory that he carries in his head. He knows where that rhino was likely heading, perhaps to a salt lick a few miles up the valley. He weighs this opportunity against the risk of the lion's presence and the promise of the bison herd you smelled on the wind. He makes his decision. He stands, a signal that the planning phase is over, and action is about to begin. With a series of grunts and targeted gestures, the day's orders are issued. A clear division of labor emerges. The leader taps the chests of 3 other men, including your older brother and yourself. You are the hunting party. The primary target will be the rhino, a high-risk, high-reward venture that could provide a mountain of meat, fat, and a hide thick enough for shelter repairs. Another group forms organically, consisting mostly of the women, a few adolescent boys, and an older man who walks with a limp. Their mission is different, but no less vital. They will take their digging sticks and hide baskets and work the lower slopes, seeking out the starchy tubers and roots that provide the reliable day-to-day calories. They will also keep an eye out for bird eggs, edible insects, and any small game they can snare. A few members remain at the camp. The elder woman who revived the fire, a couple of mothers with infants too young to travel, and the small children who are their charges. They are the keepers of the hearth, the processors of food, and the anchor of your community. This separation of roles is a mainstream historical fact, a fundamental survival strategy for hunter-gatherer societies across the globe. Scientific evidence from skeletal remains often supports this model. Male skeletons from this era frequently show more robust bone structure and specific muscular skeletal markers associated with the repetitive stress of throwing spears, while female skeletons sometimes show wear patterns consistent with grinding or carrying heavy loads. But archaeologists and anthropologists still hotly debate how rigid these roles truly were. The popular image of man the hunter, woman the gatherer is likely a vast oversimplification. In reality, roles were probably fluid and opportunistic. A woman foraging wouldn't hesitate to kill a small deer if the chance arose, and a man returning empty-handed from a hunt would certainly gather a patch of berries he stumbled upon. Survival is pragmatic. You do what works. A quirky and compelling idea known as the grandmother hypothesis suggests that the role of older, post-menopausal women was a secret weapon for human success. By helping with childcare and being incredibly efficient gatherers of reliable food sources, these grandmothers freed up the younger mothers to have more children, fueling population growth. The quiet, knowledgeable elder tending the fire and watching the toddlers isn't just babysitting. She is performing an evolutionarily critical task. The meeting is over. Everyone knows their job. The hunters begin to check their weapons, and the gatherers collect their baskets. The silent hum of shared purpose now fills the small cave. With your role for the day decided, you move to your personal space at the edge of the shelter. This is where you keep your toolkit, the small collection of stone and wood that defines your ability to provide and protect. You don't own much, but what you have is intimately, profoundly yours. You reach for your primary weapon, your spear. It leans against the rock wall, a 6-foot length of hardened yew, straight and formidable. You run your hand down the shaft. It's smooth from use, polished by the grip of your own palm. It feels less like an object and more like an extension of your arm. The business end of this spear is a masterpiece of lethal craftsmanship. It is a leaf-shaped point of razor-sharp flint, a stone you knapped yourself. You remember the day you made it, the focused, meditative process of striking a larger core with a hammerstone, carefully detaching a flake, and then using a piece of antler to pressure flake the edges into a serrated, terrifyingly sharp blade. But the true genius is in how it's attached. You didn't just tie it on. You carved a notch in the wooden shaft, set the point, and then bound it with sinew, the tough, stretchy tendon from a deer's leg. As the sinew dried, it shrank, creating a bond of incredible strength. To make it permanent and waterproof, you sealed the entire joint with a thick, black, sticky resin. This is bitumen, a quirky tidbit of prehistoric technology. It's a natural asphalt that seeps from the ground in certain places, a kind of Paleolithic superglue that you collect and prize for its adhesive power. Tucked into a simple hide belt around your waist is your other essential tool, a hand axe. This is the Swiss Army knife of your era, a teardrop-shaped piece of chert or flint that fits satisfyingly in your palm. It is a mainstream historical fact that this tool design, part of the Apulian tradition, was so effective that it remained in use for over 1 million years, making it the longest used tool in human history. While newer, more refined toolkits exist, this old, reliable design is still your go-to for heavy-duty work. It can chop wood, dig for roots, break open large bones for their rich marrow, and serve as a devastating weapon in a desperate close-quarters fight. Beside it, you carry a few extra flint flakes, their edges sharper than any modern surgical scalpel. These are for the finer work of butchering an animal, slicing through hide and muscle with precision. Your life depends on the quality of these tools, and you understand them in a way a modern person can't comprehend an object. You made them. You know the hidden flaw in the spear shaft that makes it vibrate a certain way when thrown. You know the exact spot on the hand axe that gives you the most comfortable and powerful grip. Historians still argue about the primary application of your spear. Was it a throwing javelin, launched from a safe distance to wound and track an animal? Or was it a heavy, thrusting spear used to face down a charging beast in a moment of terrifying close-contact bravery? The truth is, it's both. Its design is versatile, and you use it as the situation demands. But both scenarios require a level of courage that is difficult to fathom. The intimate knowledge you have of your tools is mirrored by the secrets the tools themselves reveal to archaeologists 50,000 years later. The scientific evidence comes from a field called microwear or usewear analysis. By examining the edges of ancient stone tools under a powerful microscope, scientists can see the microscopic scratches, fractures, and polishes left behind by their use. A specific type of glossy sheen, called meat polish, is different from the duller polish left by scraping hide, which is different again from the striations caused by a working wood. These tiny clues act as a detailed resume for each tool, telling its life story. This hand axe butchered a bison. This flint flake scraped a deer hide clean. It's a forensic window into your daily chores, proving the immense versatility of your simple yet perfect toolkit. You give your spear point a final check, hoist it to your shoulder, and turn to join the others. Your tools are ready. You are ready. While you and the other hunters check your lethal equipment, a different kind of preparation is happening nearby. Your sister, a few years younger than you, is assembling her own toolkit. It lacks the immediate aggressive purpose of your spear, but in many ways it is far more important for the clan's long-term survival. Her primary tool is deceptively simple, the digging stick. It's a stout branch about the length of her arm, with one end worked to a dull point. She likely hardened the tip by charring it carefully in the fire, a process that makes the wood surprisingly resilient. This humble stick is the key that unlocks the underground larder of the landscape. It is the tool that will pry nutritious tubers and starchy roots from the hard, unforgiving earth, providing the reliable calories that fuel your people when the hunt fails. It is a mainstream historical fact that for tens of thousands of years, the digging stick was one of the most essential and widespread tools in the human repertoire, the simple but powerful engine of the gathering economy. Next, she gathers her containers. You can't eat what you can't carry. She has a large, sturdy basket, which she wove herself over many evenings by the fire. It's made from river reeds, the fronds split and plaited together in a tight, intricate pattern passed down from her mother and grandmother. The skill involved is immense, a form of practical art that turns fragile plants into a durable vessel. For smaller, more delicate items like berries or precious eggs, she has a soft pouch made from the stomach of a deer, its opening cinched with a leather thong. And slung over her shoulder is her water carrier, a quirky and incredibly clever piece of technology. A large, hollowed-out gourd. She found it last summer, dried it, and scraped it clean. It's lightweight, durable, and keeps the water cool and free of dirt. It is, in essence, the original reusable water bottle, a perfect fusion of natural object and human ingenuity. But these physical tools, as vital as they are secondary. Her most important tool, the one that makes all the others useful, is carried entirely inside her head. It is a vast, encyclopedic knowledge of the local environment, an incredibly complex mental map of seasons, soils, and species. As she steps out of the cave, she is not entering a generic green landscape. She is reading a complex text full of meaning. She knows that the small, unassuming green plant with the purple flower has a root that is a powerhouse of energy, but only after the first frost has sweetened it. She knows that the leaves from that other bush, when crushed, can be made into a poultice that soothes the sting of a nettle or an insect bite. She also knows that the bright red berries on the vine growing by the creek look tempting, but will bring on a night of agonizing stomach cramps. Or worse. Ethnobotanists and archaeologists still argue about the sheer scale of this ancestral knowledge and how it was safely acquired and transmitted. How many tragic trial and error experiments did it take over countless generations to build this flawless internal database of what is edible what is medicinal, and what is deadly. This knowledge is a living library, passed down not in books, but in stories, in demonstration, and in the quiet, shared experience of foraging alongside your elders since you were old enough to walk. The scientific evidence for the use of all these perishable organic tools is frustratingly difficult for archaeologists to find, as wood, fiber, and hide rarely survive for 50,000 years. The proof is often indirect. Sometimes it comes from impressions of woven basketry found baked into ancient pieces of clay. More often, it comes from the stone tools themselves. Microscopic analysis of the same kind of flint flakes you carry for butchering sometimes reveals plant residues, tiny fossilized plant cells called phytoliths, or grains of starch. By identifying these microscopic remains, researchers can prove that a particular stone tool wasn't used for cutting meat, but for stripping the bark from a willow branch to make cordage, or for slicing open a starchy tuber your sister just unearthed. Her toolkit may look simple, but it is backed by an invisible arsenal of intellectual power and a deep, symbiotic relationship with the world around her. The final preparations are complete. The hunting party stands ready, spears in hand, a small, grim unit of focused intent. The gatherers have their baskets and digging sticks, their faces betraying a quieter, more patient resolve. But before you step out from the relative safety of the shelter and commit yourselves to the vast, dangerous world outside, there is one last task. It is a preparation not of the body, but of the spirit. You turn to a small, personal nook in the rock wall, a space that is implicitly yours. Here you keep a few special items, a particularly beautiful fossil shell you found last season, a collection of eagle feathers, and your most prized non-essential possession, a fist-sized lump of rich red ochre. You pick up the heavy iron-rich stone. It feels cool and dense in your palm, its surface a deep blood red that seems to drink the morning light. Using a small, flat river stone as a grinding pallet, you scrape the lump of ochre, producing a fine, brilliantly colored powder. You spit into the powder, mixing it with your finger into a thick, vibrant paste. The smell is earthy, metallic, ancient. Then, with a single deliberate stroke, you draw a line across your cheekbone. The gesture is firm, precise. It is not decoration. It is a statement of purpose, an invocation of strength, a mark of your connection to the hunt and to the blood that you hope will soon be spilled to give your family life. Looking around, you see the others performing similar small personal rituals. Your brother has drawn 2 lines on his forehead. The leader has smeared a patch on his chest, over his heart. It is a mainstream historical fact that red ochre is one of the most consistently found materials in Middle Stone Age and Upper Paleolithic sites across the globe. It was a Stone Age supermaterial, used as an adhesive for tools, a preservative for hides, and most compellingly, as a pigment for the body and for art. This simple act of painting your skin connects you to an unbroken chain of human tradition stretching back tens, even hundreds of thousands of years. Archaeologists and cognitive scientists still debate the precise meaning of these actions. Are they religious? That word is too loaded with modern context. It's unlikely you are praying to a specific, named deity. It is something more primal, more direct. It is about luck. It is about focusing the mind, drawing a symbolic line between the safe, social world of the camp and the dangerous, wild world of the hunt. It is a ritual to steel your nerve, to signal to yourself and to the others that you are now a hunter, fully committed to the life and death task ahead. Before you turn to leave, your fingers find a small, smooth wolf's tooth, perforated at the root, and strung on a sinew cord around your neck. You give it a quick, reflexive rub. It's a personal amulet, a quirky and intimate piece of your belief system, a connection to the spirit of a powerful predator whose strength you wish to borrow. The scientific evidence for these symbolic behaviors is undeniable and profound. At sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists unearthed what can only be described as a 75,000-year-old paint-making kit. It consisted of abalone shells still caked with a red ochre-based mixture, along with the stone grinders used to create the powder and the animal bones used to stir it. This wasn't a casual, accidental stain. It was the result of a deliberate, multi-step process for creating and using pigment. It is the signature of a mind capable of abstract symbolic thought, a mind that understood that one thing, red powder, could represent another: blood, strength, spirit, identity. The ritual is now complete. Your mind is as sharp and as ready as your spear point. The time for contemplation is over. The hunt awaits. The final moment of shared existence for the day arrives. The two groups, hunters and gatherers, stand poised at the edge of the shelter, two distinct streams of purpose about to flow into the vast ocean of the landscape. The sun is now fully clear of the horizon, and its low, slanted light is still too weak to offer any real warmth, but it illuminates the world in a stark, breathtaking clarity. Every frozen blade of grass, every distant, ice-dusted rock is etched with sharp shadows. There is no grand farewell, no chorus of goodbyes. The departure is marked by a silence that is heavier and more meaningful than any words. This is a moment of profound transition, the daily tearing of the clan's social fabric, done with the quiet faith that it will be woven back together by the fire at dusk. The leader of the hunting party gives a curt, single nod to the elder woman who is now in charge of the camp. It is an exchange of trust and responsibility. Protect the fire. Protect the children. Her answering gaze is steady, unflinching. Bring back life. Come back alive. You catch your sister's eye. She gives you the faintest of smiles, a fleeting expression of shared hope and anxiety that passes between you in an instant. This is the quirky and deeply human core of your existence. The profound emotional bonds that are never spoken aloud, but are understood with absolute certainty. In a world with limited language for abstract emotion, your connections are demonstrated through shared action, mutual reliance, and these small, silent glances freighted with meaning. Then, the split happens. The hunters turn right, heading toward the higher ground and the creek bed where the rhinoceros tracks were spotted. The gatherers turn left, their path taking them toward a sheltered, south-facing slope where the sun will first thaw the ground, making the digging for roots easier. For a few moments, the two groups are still visible to each other, dark figures moving against the pale, frozen earth. Then, the terrain begins to swallow you. The hunters dip behind a small ridge, and for a moment, they are gone. The gatherers are obscured by a stand of gnarled, wind-beaten pines. The camp, your only point of safety and reference, shrinks behind you with every step. The feeling is immediate and visceral. You are no longer the master of your small, fire-lit home. You are a tiny, vulnerable component of an immense and utterly indifferent ecosystem. The world has opened up, and its sheer scale is awe-inspiring and terrifying in equal measure. Every sound is now magnified. The crunch of your own feet on the frozen ground is a loud, intrusive noise. The wind, which was just a whisper at the shelter, is now a constant, keening presence, tugging at your hide cloak and searching for any gap through which to steal your warmth. You feel the primal exposure of a creature leaving its burrow. It's a mainstream historical fact that this daily foray into a hostile landscape was the central, defining rhythm of Paleolithic life. The camp was safety, the world outside was risk, and the daily gamble was that the rewards of the risk would outweigh its dangers. Scientific evidence from analyzing the geographical spread of stone tools from a single quarry shows that these bands operated within a well-defined home range, a territory they knew intimately, but which could still span hundreds of square kilometers. You are now stepping into that vast, familiar, yet perpetually dangerous territory. Scholars still debate the emotional and psychological landscape of this daily transition. Did you feel a thrill of adventure? A grim sense of duty? Or a constant, low-level hum of fear? It was likely a complex cocktail of all three. The anxiety is real. The cave lion's track is fresh in your mind, but it is sharpened and honed by a lifetime of experience into a state of hyper-awareness. Your senses are on fire, every nerve ending tingling. You are no longer a son, a brother, a member of a family. You are a predator, and your hunt has just begun. Your path diverges from the hunters, and with it, your mindset shifts. The intense, forward-driving focus of the chase is not yours today. Yours is a quieter but no less demanding state of awareness. You are a gatherer, and your mission is one of patience, perception, and profound knowledge. Your group's pace is slow, almost meandering. You don't march in a straight line, but move in a broad, loose formation across the chilly slope, your eyes in constant motion. This isn't a walk in the park. It's a systematic scanning of a complex, living library. Your gaze flits from the ground at your feet, looking for the telltale curl of a specific fern that signals edible roots below, to the tangled branches of the low, hardy bushes, searching for the last of the frost-sweetened berries. Every member of your party is engaged in this same silent, sweeping search. An aunt, 50 feet to your left, pauses, stoops, and with a quick twist of her wrist, plucks a cluster of pale, cup-shaped fungi from the base of a rotting log. She gives it a quick sniff, a final check to distinguish it from its toxic look-alike, and satisfied, places it carefully into her pouch. It's a small win, but the day will be built on an accumulation of these tiny successes. It is a mainstream historical fact that while big game hunting provided immense, prestigious windfalls of calories, the daily, reliable bedrock of the Paleolithic diet came from this seemingly humble work. Gathering was the safety net, the predictable income that buffered the clan against the high-risk boom-and-bust cycle of the hunt. Your own eyes catch what you've been looking for. A patch of withered, brown leaves, almost invisible against the dirt. To a modern eye, it's just dead foliage. To you, it's a bright, flashing signpost. You recognize it as the winter state of a plant whose underground tuber is a treasure trove of starch. You kneel, pulling the digging stick from your belt. You jam the fire-hardened point into the frozen ground next to the plant stem. The earth is like iron. You put your weight into it, grunting with the effort, working the stick back and forth to loosen a small section of dirt. It's hard, repetitive work. Your fingers are numb with cold, and your shoulders begin to ache. Finally, you feel a satisfying pop as a chunk of earth gives way. You drop the stick and dig with your bare hands, the icy soil biting at your skin until you feel it, a rough, oblong shape. You carefully work it free and pull it from the ground. It's not much to look at, a lumpy, dirt-caked thing the size of your 2 fists. It is, for all intents and purposes, a prehistoric potato. You brush the dirt from its skin and feel a deep, quiet surge of satisfaction. This ugly, unassuming lump is pure energy. It is security. It is another night with a full belly for your family. You place it gently into your woven basket, where it makes a satisfying, solid thud. The scientific evidence for this specific activity is remarkably clear. Archaeologists have recovered ancient stone tools whose microscopic edges are still covered in the residue of starch grains, allowing them to identify exactly which types of roots and tubers people like you were harvesting 50,000 years ago. Your success sharpens your senses. Further up the slope, you spot another prize, this one far more valuable and far more dangerous, a wild beehive nestled in a hollow of a dead tree. You can see the dark, waxy comb, and even from here, you can imagine the intoxicating taste of the honey within, the single sweetest, most calorie-dense food in your entire world. But the tree is draped in thick, thorny vines, and the hive's guards will not be happy. This is the constant, running calculation in your mind. Risk versus reward. Is the energy gained from the honey worth the pain of a dozen stings and the risk of a fall? Some researchers have proposed the quirky and fascinating idea that early humans may have learned to use smoke to pacify bees, a sophisticated technique that would dramatically tip the risk-reward scale. Scholars still debate how these complex, multi-step ecological strategies were developed and passed down through generations. Today, you decide against the hive. It's too early in the day to risk an injury. Instead, you turn your attention to a promising patch of green near a dark crevice in the rocks, your mind already calculating the next small, safe victory. The work of gathering is an act of deep and sustained attention, a quiet rhythm of scanning, identifying, and harvesting. But this peaceful rhythm is a fragile one, easily shattered. The environment you move through is not a benevolent garden. It is a shared territory, and many of its other inhabitants are dangerous. As your group moves around a dense thicket of thorny shrubs, the woman in the lead suddenly freezes mid-stride. She doesn't make a sound, but her entire body goes rigid, an instantaneous signal of alarm that ripples through the rest of you. You all stop, silent as stones, your eyes darting to see what she has seen. There, not 30 yards away, is a cave hyena. It's a huge, powerfully built animal with a sloping back and a massive, bone-crushing jaw. It is not hunting you. It is gnawing on the frozen leg bone of some long-dead herbivore. But it has sensed your presence. Its head is up, its dark eyes are fixed on you, and a low, guttural growl rumbles in its chest. The air crackles with tension. This is a creature that fears little and is a direct competitor for every resource, from carcasses to cave shelters. An attack is a real possibility. Your group instinctively closes ranks, making yourselves appear as a single, larger entity. You raise your digging sticks, not as effective weapons, but to add to your height and perceived threat. No one shouts. No one makes a sudden move. You simply stand your ground. A silent, tense standoff. After a long moment that stretches into an eternity, the hyena seems to make a calculation. It decides you are not worth the effort. With a final dismissive snarl, it picks up its bone and lopes away into the rocks, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. The collective breath you were all holding is released in a quiet, shaky sigh. The immediate danger has passed, but the reminder lingers. The world is full of teeth and claws. It's not just the large predators you watch for. Every step is a potential risk. You learn from childhood to be wary of turning over rocks, lest a venomous adder be coiled underneath, sluggish and irritable in the cold. You give a wide berth to any thicket that might conceal a territorial wild boar whose tusks can rip a leg open to the bone. It's a mainstream historical fact that predation was a significant and constant pressure on early human populations. Survival wasn't just about finding food, it was about avoiding becoming food. Moving on from the tense encounter, your group is now even more alert. But your search for calories continues, and soon you find a much safer, if less appealing, source of protein. You come across a large fallen pine tree, its bark soft and peeling from decay. An elder in your group taps it with her digging stick and smiles, a knowing, almost conspiratorial look on her face. You all set to work, using your sticks and bare hands to peel away huge sheets of the damp, rotting bark. The underside is teeming with life. Fat, white, C-shaped grubs, the larvae of some large beetle, are nestled in the decaying wood. They are plump, juicy, and to your modern sensibilities, utterly revolting. To you, they are a gift. This is the quirky and essential truth of your diet. High-quality protein and fat didn't only come from a well-thrown spear. You eagerly scoop up handfuls of the squirming larvae. You might pop a few directly into your mouth. They have a nutty, creamy taste, while the rest are carefully placed in a hide pouch to be taken back to camp and roasted in the fire's embers, where they will become crisp and delicious. This is the reliable, everyday protein, the guaranteed return on your effort, while the big hunt remains a high-risk, uncertain gamble. Scientific evidence for this practice comes from the analysis of coprolites, fossilized human feces, which, in rare cases of exceptional preservation, have been found to contain the chitinous remains of insect exoskeletons, proving they were a part of the diet. Archaeologists still debate the timeline and significance of this dietary expansion, often referred to as the broad-spectrum revolution. This theory posits that as populations grew and large game became scarcer in some areas, humans began to exploit a much wider variety of smaller, more labor-intensive food sources like insects, shellfish, birds, and fish. Whether this was a sudden, revolutionary change or a slow, gradual adaptation that had been happening for millennia is a topic of ongoing research. But for you, it's not a revolution. It's just lunch. And it's a lunch you didn't have to risk being gored or mauled to get. Your perspective shifts, pulling away from the quiet, methodical work of the gatherers on the sunlit slope. You are now miles away, higher up in the cold, thin air of the wind-swept ridges. You are a hunter. The pace here is different, faster, more focused, a relentless forward momentum driven by a single, all-consuming purpose. For the past hour, your small party of 4 has moved with silent efficiency, climbing toward the game trail your leader knew would be here, the ancient superhighway for the region's megafauna. And now, you have found it. The sign. There, in a patch of semi-frozen mud near the creek bed, are the tracks you saw from the shelter this morning. But here they are clearer, more immediate. The print is immense, larger than your splayed hand, a distinctive 3-toed impression pressed deep into the earth. A woolly rhinoceros. Your heart gives a low, heavy thud of adrenaline and anticipation. This is the beast you seek. But a mere track is just a headline. Now the real work of reading the fine print begins. The leader crouches, his eyes scanning the impression with an intensity that seems to absorb its every detail. This is not a casual glance. It is a forensic analysis. It's a mainstream historical fact that the survival of Paleolithic hunters depended entirely on this profound ecological literacy, an ability to read the landscape with a nuance and depth that is almost lost to the modern world. He points a single finger at the rim of the track. The mud is still sharp, not yet rounded by the wind. Then he points to the bottom of the impression, where a tiny bit of dark, brackish water has begun to seep in. The track is so fresh that the ground hasn't had time to settle. This animal passed here less than an hour ago. You look at the spacing of the prints. They are wide and even, the gait of a creature moving with unhurried purpose. It is not fleeing. It does not know you are here. A few yards on, you find another clue. A pile of dung. Your brother prods it with the tip of his spear. The outside is crusted with frost, but the inside is still soft, and a faint wisp of vapor rises from the break. The rhino is close, incredibly close. This is the science of tracking, a complex and highly intellectual exercise. Every sign is a word, and together they form a sentence, then a paragraph, then a story. A snapped twig higher than your head tells you the animal's immense shoulder height. A patch of rubbed-off hair on a rock outcrop tells you the path it took to squeeze through a narrow passage. You are not just following a trail. You are building a detailed, multidimensional picture of the creature in your mind. You know its size, its speed, its direction, and even its state of mind. You are reconstructing its recent past in order to predict its immediate future. The scientific evidence for this predictive ability is found in the very location of ancient kill sites. Archaeologists frequently find accumulations of animal bones and stone tools at the bottom of cliffs, in narrow ravines, or in bogs, natural traps. These sites prove that hunts weren't random, frantic chases, but were often the result of hunters successfully predicting an animal's path and maneuvering it into a tactically advantageous position. A quirky and likely accurate tidbit is that experienced trackers like you could probably recognize individual animals from their tracks alone, noticing the subtle limp from an old injury or the specific wear on a hoof. This wasn't just a rhino. It was becoming that rhino. Cognitive archaeologists still debate how this fire hose of complex environmental data was processed and communicated. Was it a silent, intuitive process, a shared consciousness among the hunters born of a lifetime of experience? Or did your simple proto-linguistic grunts and gestures convey far more complex information than we give them credit for? The truth is probably a mix of both. Right now, your leader looks up from the trail, his eyes no longer on the ground but on the distant ridge ahead. He doesn't need to speak. You all know where the rhino is going. The Salt Lick. The hunt has now transformed. You are no longer following. You are moving to intercept. The hunt now enters a new and far more demanding phase. The frantic energy of tracking gives way to the intense, focused discipline of the stalk. You are no longer reading the past. You are trying to become an invisible part of the present. Your small group melts into the landscape, moving in a silent crouch, using every rock, every gully, every sparse, wind-blasted bush as a shield. Your body is a low, flowing line against the pale earth, your movements economical and deliberate. You place each foot with the care of a dancer, heel first to soften the impact, avoiding the dry, brittle twigs that would snap like a gunshot in the frozen silence. Hours pass. The sun climbs higher, a cold, white disk in a pale sky, but its light offers no comfort, only a harsh glare that makes you squint. A brutal, monotonous physical strain sets in. Every muscle in your thighs and back screams in a silent, fiery protest from the constant, low crouch. The cold seeps through your hide cloak, a persistent enemy that leeches your strength. But you ignore it. You ignore the ache in your shoulders, the growing thirst in your throat, the dull hunger in your belly. Your mind is a blade, honed to a single sharp point of absolute focus. This is a battle of endurance and willpower, a testament to your body's incredible resilience, forged by a lifetime of this exact kind of hardship. The wind is your greatest ally and your most feared betrayer. Your leader, constantly crumbling dust from his fingers to watch its drift, guides your path. You must always stay downwind of your quarry. A single unlucky shift in the breeze, carrying your scent to the rhino's sensitive nostrils, and the hunt is over before it begins. The creature will either bolt for the horizon or, far worse, turn and charge. And a charging woolly rhino is an avalanche of muscle and horn that nothing can stop. This constant three-dimensional chess game with the wind is the mainstream historical fact at the core of all ambush hunting. Success is less about speed and more about an intimate, practical understanding of atmospheric physics. Your communication is a silent ballet of intention. Words are a liability here, a clumsy, noisy intrusion. Instead, you speak a rich, complex language of hand signals, a system you have used since you were a child. A flat hand held up means stop, freeze. A finger pointed urgently at the ground means fresh track, look down. A slow, circular motion of the hand means we will circle around from the east. It is a quirky and incredibly efficient mode of communication. A ghost language that allows for the perfect coordination of your small, deadly unit. You move like a pack of wolves, each hunter anticipating the other's actions, a single mind operating in 4 bodies. As you creep over the final ridge that overlooks the Salt Lick Basin, your right arm, the one holding the spear, feels coiled with a latent power. The weapon feels perfectly balanced, an extension of your will. Scientific evidence for your effectiveness as a hunter is etched into your very bones. The specific anatomy of your Homo sapiens shoulder joint, with its wider range of motion and the particular orientation of the glenoid fossa, is a marvel of evolutionary engineering. It is a biological catapult, an adaptation for high-speed, powerful throwing that allows you to deliver lethal force from a safer distance. Historians and biomechanists still debate the exact combat effectiveness of your throwing spear versus the heavy, thrusting lances of your Neanderthal cousins, who were built more for brute, close-quarters power. But your lighter, more gracile build gives you this crucial advantage: the ability to strike from afar. You peer slowly over the top of the ridge, and then you see it. Down in the basin, a gray, mountain-like shape is moving slowly, its massive head lowered to the ground. The woolly rhino. It's even bigger than you imagined, a creature of immense primordial power. Its thick, shaggy coat ripples with muscle. Its breath plumes in the frigid air. The tension in your gut tightens into a cold, hard knot. The long stalk is over. The moment of terrifying truth is about to begin. The 4 of you slide back from the ridge, your movements as slow and fluid as melting snow. The sight of the rhinoceros, real and immense, has changed the energy from the patient strain of the stalk to the sharp, humming tension of the impending ambush. Your leader doesn't need to speak. His eyes are alight with fierce calculation as he assesses the terrain before you. The basin with the salt lick is wide, but not without its strategic features. To the west, the ground is soft and boggy, churned up by millennia of animals seeking water and minerals. To the east, a steep, scree-covered slope offers treacherous footing. The rhino's most likely escape route is straight back up the valley, the way it came. That is where you will set your trap. The plan is communicated in a flurry of silent, urgent gestures. Two of you, your brother and the other hunter, will circle wide to the east, staying hidden behind the rocky outcrops. Their job is not to attack, but to reveal themselves at the critical moment, acting as a living fence to spook the rhino and prevent it from scrambling up the scree slope. You and the leader will remain here, on the main approach, the primary striking force. You are channeling the animal, limiting its options, turning the landscape itself into a weapon. It's a mainstream historical fact that early human hunters were masters of this kind of cooperative, strategic thinking. Kill sites often show evidence of this, proving that these weren't just chaotic free-for-alls, but carefully orchestrated operations that required every member of the party to play their part perfectly. As you wait for the others to get into position, you take another careful look at your target. You're not just seeing a generic beast, you're conducting a rapid, critical assessment. You notice its horns. The front one is massive, a keratinous scythe nearly as long as your arm, but the tip is slightly blunted, worn down from a lifetime of clearing snow and defending against rivals. Its movements are powerful, but a little stiff. It's a mature adult, formidable and packed with fat and muscle, but perhaps a step past its absolute prime. This is a quirky but crucial element of predator psychology that you embody, the art of selective predation. Just like the wolves you compete with, you instinctively know that targeting the absolute strongest alpha animal in a herd is a fool's errand that often leads to injury or death. Instead, you look for the subtle signs of vulnerability, a slight limp, a bit of age, a moment of isolation. This isn't a battle of honor. It's a calculated quest for calories that minimizes risk. The minutes stretch into an eternity. You lie flat against the frozen ground, a small rock digging into your ribs, your breath held tight in your chest. The only sound is the whisper of the wind and the pounding of your own heart, a frantic drumbeat against your ribs. Every one of your senses is on fire, stretched to its absolute limit. You can smell the faint, musty animal scent of the rhino drifting up from the basin. You can see the way the coarse, shaggy hair on its flank moves in the breeze. You can hear the low, contented snuffling sound it makes as it licks the mineral-rich earth. The world shrinks to this single, intense point of focus. The cold, the aches, the fatigue, it all vanishes, burned away by a flood of pure, undiluted adrenaline. Archaeologists and evolutionary psychologists still debate the deep origins of this profound, almost transcendent state of focus, sometimes called the hunter's trance. Is it the root of what modern athletes call the zone? A neurological state where time seems to slow down and action becomes effortless and intuitive? Whatever its origin, you are deep within it now. Your spear feels weightless in your hand. Your muscles are coiled springs, humming with potential energy. You watch your leader. His body is perfectly still, but you can feel the readiness radiating from him. He is waiting for the perfect moment, the instant the rhino turns, exposing its flank. The moment your brother comes into view on the far ridge, the tension is a physical thing, a high-frequency vibration in the air, a string pulled so taut it is about to snap. The ambush is set. The world holds its breath. Your leader rises. It's not a sudden leap, but a smooth, deliberate uncoiling. And this single fluid movement is the only signal needed. It is the snapping of the string that has held the world in a state of suspended tension. In the same instant, you push yourself up from the frozen ground, your spear held level in your hand. Across the basin, your brother and the other hunter spring into view from behind the rocks, shouting and waving their arms, transforming from hidden predators into visible, noisy threats. The effect on the rhino is instantaneous and electric. Its massive head snaps up from the ground, dirt and salt flying from its snout. It was a creature of calm, slow power. Now it is a mountain of pure, panicked confusion. A sound rips from its throat, a deafening, guttural bellow that echoes off the rocks. A noise of outrage and fear that vibrates deep in your own chest. The world dissolves into a whirlwind of chaotic motion and sound. The rhino spins, unsure of where the primary threat lies, its small eyes wide with fury. But in this maelstrom of panic, a strange calm descends upon you. The hunter's trance is complete. Time seems to stretch and slow down. You can see the individual hairs on the creature's flank, the angry tremor in its muscles. The shouts of your companions fade into a distant hum. There is only you, your spear, and the target. The leader is already a step ahead of you, his own spear drawn back. You match his movement, your body a perfectly calibrated throwing machine. The science of biomechanics shows that your shoulder, wrist, and torso work in a precise sequence of rotation, a kinetic chain that generates incredible velocity and power, turning your 6-foot spear into a lethal projectile capable of piercing a hide as thick as your hand. You take 2 quick, powerful strides forward and then you throw. The motion is not a thought. It is an instinct, a single explosive release of all the coiled energy in your body. The spear flies from your hand, a straight, true line across the cold air. You don't see it land so much as you hear and feel it. There is a deep, solid thud, a sound that is both sickening and profoundly satisfying. The flint point has struck home, punching deep into the rhino's massive shoulder. A dark, almost black patch of blood immediately blossoms on the thick, shaggy fur. The beast stumbles, lets out another roar, this time not of confusion, but of pure, unadulterated agony and rage. This is the most dangerous moment of any hunt, the one that fills the graveyards of your people. Skeletal remains of your ancestors are a grim testament to this fact, frequently showing healed and unhealed fractures, crushed ribs, and skull trauma consistent with violent encounters with large animals. The rhino is not fleeing. Your spear was not designed for a single, magical killing blow. A quirky and much debated topic is whether Paleolithic spears were for stopping power or simply to inflict a massive bleeding wound. Yours has done the latter. You have mortally wounded the animal, but in doing so, you have turned it from a quarry into an engine of pure vengeance. Its small, hate-filled eyes find you. It lowers its head, aiming its massive horn like a lance. And then it charges. The sheer speed is terrifying. It is an avalanche of muscle and bone, covering the ground between you in a series of earth-shaking, thunderous bounds. There is no time to think, only to react. You and the leader, as if tied by an invisible string, sprint in opposite directions, a desperate last-second tactical split. You dive sideways, tucking and rolling over the frozen rocky ground. The Rhino thunders past the exact spot where you were standing a heartbeat before, so close you can feel the rush of air and smell the hot, acrid scent of its fury. Whether ambush tactics like this were more or less common than the long-distance persistence hunting some scholars champion is a matter of intense academic debate. But in this moment, the brutal, high-risk reality of your choice is undeniable. You've survived the initial charge, but you are now scattered, and a wounded, enraged, multi-ton beast is between you and your companions. The fight has just begun. The fight ends not with a final heroic blow, but with a slow, grinding surrender. The enraged charges become weaker. The bellows lose their power, turning into ragged, wet groans. The Rhino, bleeding heavily from several deep wounds, stumbles to its knees. Its massive head sags, and with a final shuddering sigh that fogs the air, the great beast collapses onto its side. The silence that follows is absolute and profound. It rushes into the vacuum left by the violence, a quiet so deep it feels louder than the roars that preceded it. The only sound is the ragged, desperate gasping of your own lungs as you and the other hunters stand frozen, leaning on your spears, chests heaving. You are utterly spent. The adrenaline that turned you into a fearless, hyper-focused killing machine is now draining away, leaving a deep, trembling exhaustion in its wake. Your body feels like a hollow shell. Every muscle aches, your hands are shaking, and a long, bloody scrape on your arm from your diving roll over the rocks is only now beginning to sting. You are covered in a sheen of sweat that is instantly turning to ice in the frigid air, making you shiver uncontrollably. But beneath the exhaustion, a powerful, primal feeling is rising. A wave of pure, triumphant relief. You have faced down an avalanche of horns and fury, and you have won. You have turned your courage and your skill into a mountain of life-giving food. You walk slowly toward the immense, still creature. It lies like a fallen hill, its shaggy flank rising and falling in one last shallow breath before stopping completely. The leader reaches out and places his hand on the animal's coarse, thick fur, a gesture that is both proprietary and perhaps something more. Historians and anthropologists still argue about the nature of Paleolithic reverence for the animals they hunted. Was this a spiritual moment? A silent thanks to the spirit of the rhino for its sacrifice? Or was it a purely practical, appreciative assessment of the massive bounty of fat, meat, and hide before him? It's a distinction you would not understand. The rhino is both a spirit to be respected and a resource to be consumed. The two ideas are not in conflict. This moment of quiet contemplation is brief, broken by a shared, urgent need. The hunt is a massive expenditure of energy, and your bodies crave immediate reward. The leader nods, and your brother pulls out a razor-sharp flint flake. He makes a quick, expert incision into the rhino's soft underbelly. This is the quirky and widely suspected ritualistic aftermath of a successful kill. He reaches into the warm body cavity and pulls out the liver. It steams in the cold air, a dark, nutrient-dense organ. He cuts off a piece and hands it to the leader, then to you. You eat it right there, raw. The taste is strong, irony, and intensely vital. It is a supercharge of vitamins and minerals, a hunter's prize that replenishes your strength almost instantly. The evidence of this brutal, successful scene is the bedrock of our understanding of your life. The most direct scientific evidence for this kind of megafauna hunting comes from the bones of the animals themselves. All over the world, from North America to Siberia, archaeologists have unearthed the skeletons of mammoths, bison, and rhinos bearing the unmistakable telltale signs of your work. Deep V-shaped cut marks on ribs where meat was stripped away, and impact fractures where stone spear points struck bone. Often, the very flint points themselves are found among the remains, the murder weapons left at the scene of the crime. It is a mainstream historical fact that a single large kill like this was an immense economic windfall, providing tens of thousands of calories, enough to feed your entire clan for weeks, and a surplus of hide, bone, and sinew for tools and shelter. But this very success has started a clock, and it is ticking loudly. The coppery scent of blood is already thick in the air, a powerful, irresistible perfume. It is an open invitation, an advertisement being carried on the wind to every scavenger and predator for miles. The cave lion whose track you saw this morning is out here. Packs of hungry cave hyenas and wolves are too. There is no time to celebrate, no time to rest. Your moment of triumph is over. The next, equally crucial, phase of your work must begin immediately, a frantic race against the other hungry mouths of the Ice Age. The moment of quiet reverence is over, vaporized by the urgent coppery smell of blood that is now a beacon on the wind. There is no time to savor the victory. You are a small island of success in an ocean of hungry competitors, and the tide is coming in. With a shared, unspoken understanding, the four of you descend upon the carcass, not with the fury of the kill, but with the focused, systematic efficiency of a demolition crew. You drop your spears and pull out the tools designed for this exact purpose. The heavy, teardrop-shaped hand axe comes into your grip for the brutal, heavy-duty work, while in your other hand you hold a flint flake, its edge lethally sharp and delicate. The first task is the most difficult: skinning. The rhino's hide is a thick, leathery armor plate. It takes the combined effort of two of you, using the sharpest flakes you have, to make the initial incisions along the belly and legs. The work is a strain, your muscles protesting as you slice and pull, separating the skin from the thick layer of subcutaneous fat beneath. The massive hide is peeled back in a great, heavy blanket, a resource almost as valuable as the meat itself. It will become new sleeping robes, patches for your shelter, or perhaps a windbreak against the merciless cold. With the skin removed, the process of disarticulation begins. This is where the hand axe proves its worth. You are not a delicate butcher. You are a pragmatic demolitions expert. You bring the stone axe down with controlled, powerful blows, not to cut through the massive bones, but to smash through the cartilage of the joints, the knees, the shoulders, the hips. The sound is a wet, percussive crunching, a brutal but necessary part of breaking this mountain of an animal down into portable sections. It is a mainstream historical fact that this waste not, want not philosophy was the core of Paleolithic survival. Every single part of this animal will be used. The hide for shelter, the meat for food, the sinew from the long tendons for cordage and thread, and the bones themselves for tools, needles, and even fuel for the fire in a treeless landscape. Once a large section, like a whole leg, is freed, you switch back to the flint flake. You work with a knowledge of anatomy that is instinctual, passed down through generations of observation. You slice along the seams of the muscle groups, peeling away huge, quivering slabs of dark red meat. The flint is so sharp, it glides through the flesh with an unnerving ease. The richest, fattiest cuts from the back and rump are set aside, a prize for the whole clan. The work is messy, hurried, and utterly consuming. You are slick with blood and grease up to your elbows, the metallic smell thick in your nostrils. The final, and perhaps most important part of the butchery is the harvest of the hidden calories. You take a large, heavy hammerstone, and with a two-handed swing, you bring it down on the massive femur bone. It takes several blows, but finally, the thick bone cracks open with a loud snap, revealing the treasure within, a long, waxy, pinkish-gray column of marrow. This is one of the most calorie-dense foods on the planet, a pure, unadulterated shot of life-giving fat. You and the others use your fingers and small flint blades to scoop out the precious, greasy substance, some of it eaten on the spot, the rest carefully wrapped in a piece of hide to be brought back to camp. The scientific evidence for this is overwhelming. Smashed and fractured megafauna bones are a common feature at kill sites, a clear sign that early humans were systematically extracting the marrow. Archaeologists can even distinguish the spiral fractures caused by human hammerstones from the crunching damage of a hyena's jaw. A quirky and much debated topic is what, if anything, you would do with the rhino's horn. It's made of keratin, the same material as your fingernails, and doesn't preserve in the fossil record, so its potential uses are purely speculative. Was it a status symbol? A digging tool? A ceremonial object? You have no time for such considerations. While scholars still debate the broader question of hunting versus scavenging in the Paleolithic, arguing over what percentage of your meat came from active kills like this one, there is no ambiguity here. The spear point lodged in the creature's ribcage makes that clear. This was your kill, your prize. And now, surrounded by massive, bloody, and awkwardly shaped loads of meat, hide, and bone, your work is only half finished. The grueling journey home awaits. While you and your fellow hunters are drenched in the bloody, high-stakes aftermath of your victory, a much quieter, less dramatic success story is already making its way home. The foraging party, having spent the day in a slow, methodical harvest, has turned back toward the shelter. The sun is now past its zenith, beginning its long, slow slide toward the horizon. The light has softened from a harsh white glare to a warmer golden hue, but the air is getting colder, a reminder that the brief window of daylight is closing. The mood of the returning gatherers is one of quiet contentment. There is no adrenaline crash, no trembling exhaustion from a life or death struggle. Instead, there is the simple, profound satisfaction of a job well done. Their woven baskets are heavy, loaded with the fruits of their labor and knowledge. The lumpy, dirt-caked tubers, your prehistoric potatoes, form a dense, weighty base. On top of them are clusters of fungi, the pouch of roasted beetle grubs, and a handful of tough, late-season berries that will add a welcome burst of sour sweetness to the evening meal. Your sister even managed to snare a snowshoe hare, its limp, furry body now tucked securely under her arm, a significant bonus of protein for the day. This collection of roots, bugs, and small game is the economic bedrock of your clan. It is a mainstream historical fact that for the vast majority of hunter-gatherer societies, gathering, not hunting, provided the most reliable and consistent source of daily calories. The big game hunt is the glorious high-risk gamble, the windfall that brings celebration and prestige. But this heavy basket of carbohydrates and small proteins is the daily wage, the predictable income that ensures no one starves when the hunt fails. Their journey home is not a desperate, hurried race against scavengers, but a steady rhythmic walk. They are tired, their backs and shoulders aching from carrying the heavy loads. But it is a good, productive kind of tired. As they walk, they are still working. Their senses are still active, their minds still processing the landscape. This is a quirky and fascinating aspect of their existence. Their mental map is never offline. They are not just commuting from point A to point B. They are conducting a final daily survey. Your sister points out a patch of scraped bark on a young tree, noting that deer have been in the area recently. An elder notices that a particular patch of berry bushes, barren today, will likely be the first to ripen after the next rain. They are constantly updating their internal database, planning the next day's forage even as they finish this one. It is an act of ceaseless, low-level cognitive engagement with their environment. The most powerful scientific evidence we have for this way of life comes from studying the few remaining modern hunter-gatherer societies, like the Hadza of Tanzania or the San peoples of southern Africa. Ethnographic studies of these groups provide a living analogue for your Paleolithic economy. They consistently show that the reliable daily return items brought in by the women, tubers, berries, and small game, form the stable core of the diet, while the high-risk, high-reward items brought in by the men, like honey or large game, are less frequent but celebrated windfalls. This evidence has been crucial in correcting a long-standing bias in the study of the past. For decades, archaeologists and scholars have debated the man-the-hunter model, a narrative that placed the dramatic, archaeologically visible act of hunting at the center of human evolution. This was largely because stone spear points and large, butchered animal bones preserve incredibly well, while wooden digging sticks and the remains of plants rarely do. It created a skewed, male-centric view of prehistory. It is only in recent decades, through the rise of new scientific techniques and a more critical perspective, that the quiet, indispensable role of woman the gatherer has been restored to its rightful place at the heart of the human story. The foragers now see the thin, grey plume of smoke rising from your shelter in the distance. They have upheld their end of the bargain. They are bringing home the daily bread. Your triumphant, bloody work is done, but your day's ordeal has just entered its most grueling phase. While the gatherers make their steady, contented way home with their reliable bounty, your return is a brutal, desperate race against fading light and rising threats. The four of you stand surrounded by a gory, disjointed puzzle of rhino parts. The challenge now is a problem of pure brute force logistics. How do you get this mountain of calories back to the mountain you call home? There are no carts, no pack animals, only your own backs and legs. You heft your portion, a massive haunch of meat and bone, still wrapped in its thick hide, draped over your shoulders. The weight is staggering, 100 pounds or more of dead, awkward mass. It's not just heavy, it's slippery with blood and fat, and its shape seems perfectly designed to dig into your shoulders and throw you off balance with every step. You secure it as best you can with a length of sinew, but it's a clumsy, precarious burden. This is not a comfortable hike with a modern backpack. It's a brutal, punishing slog. It is a mainstream historical fact that the skeletons of your Paleolithic ancestors reflect this lifestyle. Their bones are incredibly robust, with thick cortical layers and pronounced muscle attachment points, suggesting a level of physical strength and endurance that would rival a modern elite athlete. Your body is a machine built for exactly this kind of punishment. The journey begins. The sun is now a fat, orange smear on the horizon, and the shadows are growing long and distorted, turning familiar rocks into lurking beasts. Every step is an effort. Your legs, already weary from the stalk, burn with a fresh, acidic fire. The strain radiates up your spine, and the muscles in your neck and shoulders scream in protest. You and your companions fall into a single file line, a miserable, shuffling procession of suffering. The only sounds are the grunts of exertion, the squelch of the bloody hides against your backs, and your own ragged, labored breathing that plumes like a steam engine in the rapidly cooling air. This is not just a test of strength, it's a race. The rich scent of your bloody cargo is a dinner bell that has been ringing for over an hour. You know, with a cold certainty in the pit of your stomach that you are being followed. You don't need to see them to feel their presence. You catch a flicker of movement on a distant ridge. A wolf, pacing you, waiting for a moment of weakness. The distant whooping call of a hyena pack echoes from the valley below, a sound that makes the hair on your neck stand up. They are gathering. Every shadow you pass could conceal a cave lion, drawn from its lair by the promise of an easy, stolen meal. Your head swivels constantly, your eyes straining in the dying light. A paranoid, twitchy dance between watching your footing and scanning for an ambush. Scholars still debate the complex logistics of megafauna transport. Did groups like yours attempt to move everything in one heroic, back-breaking trip? Or did they sometimes establish a temporary camp by the kill site, butchering and consuming part of it there, and making multiple lighter trips back home? The answer likely depended on the distance, the terrain, and the level of predator risk. Today, with the camp only a few miles away, you have gambled on a single, agonizing haul. The scientific study of human energetics reveals just how costly this decision is. The number of calories you are burning to carry this rhino meat is astronomical. You are, in effect, spending a significant portion of the prize just to get the prize home. To manage the immense load, you might be using a quirky but highly effective piece of technology. A tump line. It's a simple strap of hide that you've looped around your meaty bundle and placed across your forehead. This allows you to support the weight not just with your shoulders, but with the powerful muscles of your neck and back, freeing your hands to carry your spear and maintain your balance. It's a trick that allows you to carry more, for longer, but the pressure on your skull is immense. This is the unglamorous, uncelebrated reality of the great hunter. A miserable, soul-crushing march under a crushing burden, every step a victory against gravity and exhaustion, every shadow a potential encounter with death. You are not a hero returning with a trophy. You are a delivery driver at the end of the world's worst shift. You are almost at your breaking point. Your vision is tunneling, your legs are numb, unfeeling stilts, and the only thing driving you forward is the sight of the smoke from your home fire, a thin grey pillar of hope rising into the twilight sky. You stumble out of the last patch of thorny brush and into the open space before the shelter. The last 50 yards are the longest you have ever walked. Then a sharp cry slices through the evening air. It's a child, one of the youngsters playing near the entrance. They've seen you. The cry isn't one of fear. It's a pure, piercing shout of announcement. They are back! Instantly, the entire camp is electrified. Figures pour out of the shelter's mouth, their familiar silhouettes framed against the warm orange glow of the fire within. The quiet, domestic hum of the evening. The gentle chatter of the returned foragers, the sounds of children playing, is replaced by a surge of communal energy, a palpable wave of anticipation and hope. They can see the dark, impossibly heavy burdens on your backs. They know. The final few steps are a blur. You reach the sacred circle of light and warmth around the fire pit, and with a final gasping groan, you let your burden slide from your shoulders. The massive haunch of rhino meat thuds onto the dusty ground, a sound of absolute finality. The relief is so total, so immediate that your knees buckle and you almost collapse. You stand there, leaning on your spear, trembling, slick with sweat and blood, utterly spent. But you are home. The clan swarms around you and the other hunters, a tide of humanity that surrounds you with touch and sound. Hands clap your shoulders. People reach out to touch the meat, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe and hunger. They touch the fresh, bloody cuts on your arms with a gentle concern. The mood of the entire camp lifts, transforms. The anxiety that has been a low background hum all day, the unspoken fear that the hunters might return empty-handed or not return at all, evaporates in an instant. It is replaced by a profound collective sense of security. This is the feeling of a full belly guaranteed for many nights to come. This is the feeling of warmth, of safety, of a temporary but total victory in the endless war against starvation and the cold. It is a mainstream historical fact that this dynamic of food sharing, centering on the communal hearth, was the glue that held human society together. The fire pit was the bank, the dinner table, and the church, all in one. The place where individual success was transformed into collective survival. The meat is dragged closer to the roaring fire, the centerpiece of this impromptu celebration. At the same time, the baskets of the foragers are brought forward. The lumpy tubers are laid out next to the mountain of dark red muscle. The small hare is placed beside the massive rhino haunch. It is a visual representation of your entire economy, the two pillars of your existence brought together in a moment of shared success. Scientific evidence for this combined strategy is found in the chemistry of your ancestors' bones. Isotopic analysis of skeletons found at a single site often reveals a dietary signature of both large herbivores and a significant component of plant-based foods, proving that the fruits of the hunt and the gathering were being pooled and consumed by the same community. Anthropologists still debate the exact social mechanisms of food sharing in these early societies. Was it a system of pure egalitarian distribution where everyone received an equal share? Or was it a more complex economy of reciprocity and prestige, where the most successful hunters were paid with status and a larger portion, which they could then strategically share to build alliances? The truth is likely somewhere in between, a fluid system of obligation and generosity that you understand not as a set of rules, but as the simple, unquestioned rhythm of life. For a moment, a quirky, speculative thought arises. Perhaps the hunters let out a specific call as they approached, a triumphant vocalization that announced their success from a distance, a kind of prehistoric, dinner's-ready shout across the tundra. But whether announced or simply seen, the effect is the same. A wave of pure, unadulterated relief that washes over every single member of your clan, from the smallest child to the oldest elder. The gamble has paid off. Tonight, everyone will eat. The collective relief quickly sharpens into a focused, communal industry. The small, efficient fire that kept the camp warm is no longer sufficient for the task at hand. It must be transformed into a furnace, a blazing altar for the feast. The children and younger members of the clan, their eyes wide and bright with excitement, are dispatched to the edges of the shelter to gather more fuel. They return with armloads of dry, dead wood, seasoned branches of pine and hardy tundra shrubs that have been collected and stored for exactly this kind of occasion. The fuel is piled high onto the existing embers, and the fire responds with a hungry, joyful roar. It swells in size and intensity, a column of swirling golden light that pushes the deep evening shadows back to the furthest corners of the cave, its heat a physical blow you can feel from 10 yards away. There are no pots, no pans, no grills. Your kitchen is the fire itself, and your cooking techniques are as ancient as the flames. The choicest cuts of rhino meat, thick, fat marbled steaks from the rump and back, are simply tossed directly onto the bed of glowing, white-hot coals at the edge of the fire. The immediate sound is a violent, explosive sizzle, a sound that cuts through all other noise in the camp. A thick, intoxicatingly rich plume of smoke billows upwards, carrying the smell of rendering fat and searing meat. This is the scent of pure, unadulterated success, a perfume that makes your mouth water and your stomach ache with a happy, impatient hunger. This direct on-the-coals method, which modern chefs might call dirty steak, is the oldest and simplest way of cooking, a perfect method for creating a crisp, charred crust while leaving the inside rich and juicy. Other, leaner cuts of meat, along with the small hair brought back by the gatherers, are skewered on long, green sticks of willow, which won't burn through as quickly as dry wood. These are propped up on rocks around the fire's perimeter, a forest of makeshift rotisseries. People are assigned to turn them slowly, ensuring they cook evenly, the dripping fat hissing and spitting as it hits the flames below. The quirky but logical practice of using hot stones as a cooking surface is also on display. Flat, clean stones that have been sitting in the hot embers are pulled out with sticks and used as primitive griddles, perfect for quickly searing delicate organ meats like the heart and kidneys, which would be lost in the main inferno. The entire shelter is now filled with the sounds of the coming feast. The constant hungry crackle and roar of the fire provides the bass note. Layered on top is the sharp sizzle of the cooking meat, a sound that promises imminent satisfaction. And woven through it all is the rising and falling murmur of happy, excited human voices. Laughter erupts as a child gets too close to the fire and yelps at the heat. Two elders are engaged in a quiet but animated conversation, gesturing with their hands, perhaps recounting a story of a past, even greater hunt. Children, too impatient to wait for the main event, are gnawing on the ends of the smaller rhino bones you brought back, trying to worry off any last scraps of uncooked meat and sinew. The atmosphere is electric, a powerful antidote to the day's brutal exhaustion. It is a mainstream historical fact that this control over fire, specifically for cooking, was a pivotal moment in human evolution. Cooked food is not only safer, reducing the risk of parasites and bacteria, but it is also far easier to digest. Cooking breaks down tough muscle fibers and complex carbohydrates, effectively outsourcing a part of the digestive process to the fire. This pre-digestion meant your body could extract far more calories and nutrients from the same amount of food, with less energy spent doing so. This massive new energy surplus is what many scientists believe fueled the dramatic expansion of the complex, power-hungry human brain. The scientific evidence for this very scene is found written in the ashes of your hearth. Archaeologists excavating ancient fire pits find not just charcoal, but dense concentrations of burned animal bones. By analyzing the patterns of discoloration and fracturing, they can often distinguish between bones that were simply tossed into the fire as fuel and those that show the telltale signs of having been roasted with their meat still attached. However, scholars still fiercely debate exactly when this revolutionary practice began. Did it start with your distant ancestor, Homo erectus, over 1 million years ago, as some evidence suggests? Or was consistent, habitual cooking a more recent innovation, perfected by Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens like you? The answer remains buried, but there is no debating its impact. The act of cooking did more than just feed your bodies. It fed your minds and laid the foundation for your culture. It turned the simple, individual act of eating into the profound, communal ritual of the meal. And your meal is almost ready. The wait is over. The largest steak, its outside a blackened, sizzling crust of carbon and caramelized fat, is hooked with the tip of a spear and dragged from the coals onto a clean, flat stone that serves as a communal platter. There are no dinner bells, no calls to the table, no ceremony. The signal is the meat itself. The moment it leaves the fire, the meal begins. The leader of the hunt steps forward first. It is his unspoken right. He uses his personal flint flake to saw off a large, steaming chunk. He doesn't sit. He simply stands by the fire, holding the searingly hot piece of flesh in his calloused hands, and begins to eat, the grease running down his chin and wrist. This is the only moment of formality. Once he has taken his share, the rest of the clan moves in. There are no plates, no forks, no individual portions. You grab what you can, finding a handhold on a less charred edge of the massive steak, and tear. You take a huge bite, the tender, smoky meat exploding with a rich irony flavor in your mouth. It is the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. The meat is tough to pull apart with your hands alone, so you employ a technique used by your ancestors for 1 million years. You grip a piece firmly between your teeth, pull it taut, and use the razor-sharp edge of your flint flake to slice off a manageable bite, dangerously close to your own nose and lips. This is your cutlery, your hands, your teeth, and a stone blade. The social hierarchy of your clan, normally a subtle and fluid thing, is now on clear, practical display. The other 3 hunters who participated in the kill get the next choice of the meat, a clear reward for their risk and effort. You see the leader tear off a particularly fatty, desirable piece and hand it to his pregnant mate. The elders, with their worn-down teeth, are given pieces of the soft, rich liver, which requires less chewing. This distribution isn't dictated by written laws, but by a deep, instinctual understanding of social dynamics and survival. The hunters are rewarded, and the most vulnerable, the very young, the very old, and the mothers creating the next generation, are provided for. This is the heart of the scholarly debate on Paleolithic social structure. Was your society purely egalitarian, or did a clear, prestige-based hierarchy determine who got the best resources? The scene before you suggests a pragmatic mix of both, a hierarchy of privilege for the providers, tempered by a powerful communal instinct to care for the group. The sounds of the meal are a symphony of pure, animalistic satisfaction. There is the wet, tearing sound of meat being ripped from the bone, the loud, happy gnawing and slurping, and the occasional grunt of sheer pleasure. A quirky and probably accurate tidbit is that your concept of table manners is utterly non-existent. Eating is a noisy, messy, and somewhat competitive affair. You eat as quickly as you can, eager for the next piece, your face and hands slick with grease and blood. Yet it's a competition governed by unspoken rules of respect and kinship. The scientific evidence for using your teeth as a third hand is brutally inscribed on the fossilized remains of your people. Forensic analysis of Neanderthal and early Homo sapiens incisors often reveals extreme wear and tear, with tiny microscopic scratches and chips that are not from chewing, but from a lifetime of gripping hides, sinew, and, in moments like this, tough, cooked meat while cutting it with a stone tool. Your teeth are not just for eating. They are a vital part of your toolkit. As you chew, a profound sense of well-being settles over you. The gnawing, anxious hunger that is the constant companion of your existence is finally silenced, buried under a mountain of fat and protein. It is a mainstream historical fact that this act of communal eating around a central hearth is one of the most ancient and fundamental pillars of human sociality. This is more than just refueling. As you look around the fire at the greasy, happy faces of your family, your clan, you feel the bonds that tie you together being forged anew. The shared danger of the hunt and the shared relief of the feast create a powerful circular current of reciprocity and trust. You are not just individuals eating near each other. You are a single organism, and this meal is the lifeblood you have won together. For each other. The frenzy of the feast subsides, replaced by a deep, bone-weary satisfaction. Your belly is full for the first time in what feels like weeks, a tight, warm, and reassuring pressure in your gut. The frantic, competitive energy of the meal melts away, and a quiet, productive calm settles over the clan as they cluster in the fire's gentle orbit. The roaring blaze has been allowed to burn down to a thick, steady bed of glowing orange coals, a perfect source of radiant heat and soft, intimate light. The work of the day is not yet over, but its nature has changed. The time for high-stakes, high-energy survival is past. Now is the time for the quiet, essential work of maintenance. You retrieve your flint knife, the one you used for the finer butchery work. Its once razor-sharp edge is now dulled and chipped from slicing through the rhino's tough hide and sinew. It is useless in its current state, but it is far from finished. You settle onto a smooth, worn rock near the fire's edge, a spot that has served as your family's workshop for generations. You pick up another tool, a short, stout piece of antler, its tip worn to a fine, hard point. This is your pressure flaker. Holding the flint knife steady on a leather pad on your knee, you press the tip of the antler firmly against the blade's edge and apply a sudden, controlled burst of pressure. A tiny crescent-shaped flake of stone pops off with a sharp tick. You repeat the process again and again, working your way meticulously down the length of the blade. Tick, tick, tick. The sound is one of the most common and comforting evening sounds of your world. This is a mainstream historical fact known as pressure flaking, a sophisticated and controlled technique for the final shaping and resharpening of stone tools. It requires immense skill, a precise knowledge of angles, and an intuitive feel for the internal structure of the stone. You are not just chipping away, you are carefully guiding a fracture through the flint to create a new, perfectly sharp, serrated edge. As you work, you are leaving an unconscious signature on the stone. The exact amount of pressure you use, the angle you hold the tool, the spacing of the flakes. It all combines to create a pattern that is uniquely yours. It's a quirky and fascinating theory in archaeology that expert knappers had distinct styles, allowing a modern lithic analyst to sometimes recognize the work of a single, long-dead individual across multiple tools found at a site, like identifying a painter by their brushstrokes. Around you, others are engaged in similar tasks. Your brother is working on a new spear shaft, a long, promising sapling of ash. He holds a section of it over the hot coals, warming the wood until it becomes pliable. Then he presses it against a rock, sighting down its length and carefully bending out the slight warps and curves, his goal a perfectly straight and balanced shaft. An older woman, meanwhile, is preparing sinew. She has a long, dry tendon from a deer, and she is slowly chewing it, her saliva softening the tough fibers until they can be separated and twisted into a strong, resilient thread, perfect for sewing hides or binding a new point to a spear. This constant cycle of use, dulling, and resharpening is the life story of your tools, a story that can be read 50,000 years from now. The scientific evidence is found in the microscopic scars left by your work. Use-wear analysis can distinguish the large fractures from the initial hard hammer percussion that created the tool from the fine, delicate flake scars of your pressure flaking. Scientists can literally count the generations of resharpening on a single blade, reconstructing its journey from a pristine new tool to a worn-down, well-loved nub that was finally discarded. Cognitive archaeologists still debate the profound mental leap this work represents. Is this rhythmic, repetitive task just a form of muscle memory, a skill learned by rote? Or does the complex, multi-step sequence of actions, planning the strike, anticipating the fracture, adjusting for flaws in the stone, require a kind of procedural grammar, a structured way of thinking that is a direct precursor to the syntax of language? You don't ponder this. You just feel the deep satisfaction of the work, the quiet pride of turning a dull, useless object back into a perfect, lethal tool. The firelight glints on the fresh, sharp edge you have created. It is ready for the next hunt. You are ready. Your flint knife is now lethally sharp again, its edge a perfect row of tiny serrated teeth. You wrap it carefully in a piece of soft leather and tuck it back into your belt. The practical, solitary work of the evening is done. A deep, instinctual pull now draws you from the periphery of the group toward its warm, human center. You settle on the ground next to your older brother, who is leaning back against a smooth rock, his face relaxed in the firelight. He wordlessly shuffles over, making space for you. You sit with your back to him, a silent invitation that he immediately understands. His fingers, calloused and strong, begin to work their way through your thick, matted hair. This is grooming, and it is perhaps the most important social currency you have. His fingers search methodically, their pads sensitive to the tiny bumps of lice or the small, hard bits of dirt and burrs that have accumulated during the day's exertions. When he finds a louse, he expertly plucks it out between his thumbnails with a faint click. The sensation of his fingers on your scalp is deeply, profoundly comforting. It is a primal reassurance, a physical manifestation of trust and affection that requires no words. It is a mainstream historical fact that social grooming is a cornerstone of primate social life, from chimpanzees to baboons. It's not just about hygiene. It is the glue that builds and maintains alliances, soothes tensions, and reinforces the social hierarchy. It is the language of friendship spoken through touch. As you sit there, lulled by the gentle grooming, You tune into the low murmur of conversation flowing around the fire. This is the social hour, the time for the exchange of information that truly binds your group together. But this isn't a discussion of philosophy or abstract ideas. It is gossip. You hear your mother and your aunt talking in low tones, their conversation a practical assessment of the mood within the clan. They note that the leader seems pleased, not just by the hunt, but by the cooperation shown. They whisper about two of the younger boys who had a squabble earlier, and how it was resolved. This isn't malicious chatter. It is the vital daily processing of social information. Who is allied with whom? Who is in a bad mood? Who needs extra support? Knowing the answers to these questions is as critical to your survival as knowing where to find water. The British anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed the quirky and now famous theory that language itself evolved specifically for this purpose, as a kind of vocal grooming. He argued that as human groups grew larger, it became physically impossible to maintain bonds with everyone through one-on-one grooming. Language, and specifically gossip, allowed us to groom multiple individuals at once, to service our social networks more efficiently, and to keep track of the ever-shifting web of relationships. The scientific evidence he uses to support this is the strong correlation between a primate species' neocortex size and the size of its typical social group. Your human brain, with its massive neocortex, is built to handle a social world of immense complexity, a world that requires the constant data-rich stream of information that gossip provides. Scholars still debate, of course, whether language's primary evolutionary driver was this social function or a more practical one, like coordinating the hunt. But as you listen to the quiet chatter, it's hard to deny the power of simply talking about each other. The relaxed mood is suddenly broken by a chuckle. One of the other hunters, a man known for his playful nature, gets to his feet. A wide grin splits his face as he looks at your brother. He then begins a silent pantomime. He mimics the tense moments of the Rhino charge, his eyes wide with fake terror. He pretends to hold a spear, but he makes his movements clumsy and awkward. He mimes slipping on a loose rock, and then he reenacts your brother's one-missed spear throw, a wild off-balance hurl that went 10 feet wide of the charging beast. The pantomime is a perfect, hilarious exaggeration. The whole clan erupts in laughter. It's a deep, genuine, belly-shaking laugh that fills the shelter. Your brother laughs the loudest, swatting good-naturedly at the performer. It is a moment of pure comedic relief, a necessary release of the life and death tension you all endured just hours before. This laughter is as important as the grooming and the gossip. It smooths over the sharp edges of a dangerous life, turning a moment of failure and fear into a shared story of survival and camaraderie. The shared laughter, a warm and binding force, gradually fades into a comfortable silence. The fire has burned down to a heart of glowing, pulsating embers that casts a soft, reddish light on the faces gathered around it. A deep, contented lethargy has settled over the clan, the perfect state of mind for the day's final, and perhaps most important, activity. An old man, your mother's grandfather, clears his throat. It is not a cough, but a quiet, deliberate sound that cuts through the stillness. It is a signal. The children stop their fidgeting. The quiet conversations cease. All eyes turn to him. He is the clan's library, its memory, a living vessel of knowledge accumulated over a lifetime of successes and failures. His face, a roadmap of wrinkles carved by 100,000 sunrises, is illuminated by the soft glow. His eyes, though clouded with age, seem to hold the reflection of 1,000 campfires just like this one. He begins to speak. His voice is a low, raspy drone, a hypnotic, calming sound. He is not just talking. He is weaving a tapestry of sound, gesture, and memory. The story he tells tonight is the story of your hunt. But it is more than a simple report. He begins by describing the creation of the world, a time when the great ancestor painted the landscape and filled it with animals. He speaks of the first rhino, a creature of immense power, given a coat of thick fur by the spirit of the north wind and a horn of sharpened mountain stone. He then seamlessly transitions into a practical lesson, his hands mimicking the way a rhino's tracks look in hard, frozen mud versus soft, wet soil. He reenacts the hunt itself, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper during the stalk, then rising to a sharp, percussive shout to describe the charge. He is not just telling you what happened today, he is embedding today's events into the grand, mythological narrative of your people. This is a mainstream historical fact of pre-literate societies. Oral tradition is the only hard drive you have. Every piece of essential information, your history, your laws, your survival manual, your religion, is stored not in books or on servers, but in the memories of your elders, passed down through the fragile medium of the spoken word. The story you are hearing is a multi-layered data packet. It is entertainment, yes, but it is also a tactical briefing on hunting strategy, a naturalist's guide to animal behavior, a history of your clan's territory, and a reinforcement of your spiritual connection to the world. As you listen, you are hearing the answer to one of the most profound questions in human evolution. Scholars still argue with immense passion about the complexity of language 50,000 years ago. Was this man's speech a simple proto-language? A string of practical present-tense concepts like rhino there, spear here? Or was he using a true, fully modern language, complete with grammar, syntax, and the ability to speak about the distant past, the creation, and the hypothetical future, the next hunt? The fact that he can weave today's events into a mythological history strongly suggests the latter. The emergence of art and complex symbolism in this same period is another powerful clue that your mind and your language was capable of profound abstract thought. The scientific evidence for this capacity lies deep within your own body, in your DNA. Geneticists have identified a gene, FOXP2, which is critically linked to the fine motor control of the mouth and larynx necessary for complex speech. Crucially, they have found that the modern human version of this gene was already present in both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals at this time. The biological hardware for complex, articulate speech was installed and running. What we can't know is the software. A quirky and compelling thought is what this language actually sounded like. Did it have the clicks and pops of modern Khoisan languages in Africa? Was it tonal, like many East Asian languages, where the pitch of a word changes its meaning? It is a ghost of a sound we can never recover, but the story it carried was the blueprint for your survival. The children are motionless, their small faces rapt, their eyes wide in the firelight. They are not just being told a bedtime story. They are downloading their culture. They are learning what it means to be one of the people. The old man's voice drones on, the rhythms becoming slower, the words softer. The fire is now just a bed of deep red jewels. The story is ending. The day is ending. And the knowledge has been safely passed to the next generation. The old man's story settles into the minds of the clan, a final, warm meal for the soul. The fire is now a soft, breathing heart of embers, and the deep, profound silence of the Ice Age night presses in on your small shelter. But not everyone is ready for sleep. In a quiet corner, illuminated by the ember glow, a young woman is engaged in a task of deep and mysterious concentration. She is not preparing a tool or a meal. She is creating meaning. You watch, captivated by her deliberate, almost ritualistic movements. On a flat, smooth stone in front of her is a small pile of the same brilliant red ochre you used this morning. But her purpose for it is entirely different. Using a small, rounded pebble, she grinds the ochre into an even finer, more velvety powder. Next to the powder is a small lump of clean white rhino fat, a precious byproduct of the day's butchery. She takes a pinch of the fat and works it into the ochre powder with her fingertips, her movements slow and practiced. The fat acts as a binder, transforming the dry, dusty pigment into a thick, rich, and slightly greasy pound, the color of freshly spilled blood. This is a quirky and essential piece of Paleolithic chemistry, the invention of paint. Archaeologists analyzing the residue on ancient artifacts debate the various binders used. Animal fat, egg yolk, plant saps, even blood or saliva. But the principle is the same, turning colored earth into a permanent mark. Her canvas is not a cave wall, but a small, unassuming object she holds carefully in her other hand. It is a piece of bone from a large bird, long and hollow. Its surface is already covered in a series of incisive lines, a complex geometric pattern of cross-hatching and chevrons that she has been working on for many nights. Now she dips a finger into the red paste and carefully, precisely, rubs the pigment into the engraved lines. The greasy ochre fills the incisions, making the pale, subtle scratches leap into a vivid, high contrast pattern of red against the creamy white of the bone. It is no longer just a piece of bone. It is an object of deliberate and powerful design. You are witnessing an act of profound cognitive modernity. It is a mainstream historical fact, powerfully demonstrated by discoveries at sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa, that this kind of symbolic behavior is incredibly ancient. Long before the famous cave paintings of Lascaux and Chauvet in Europe, your African ancestors were engaging in complex symbolic thought. At Blombos, archaeologists found chunks of ochre engraved with crosshatch patterns and, even more astoundingly, dozens of tiny seashells, each one deliberately perforated in the exact same spot. These are the world's oldest known jewelry, 75,000-year-old beads. They are irrefutable proof of a mind that understood symbolism, that could assign abstract meaning to a physical object, and that cared about personal adornment and social identity. What does this pattern on the bone mean? This is the core of one of the greatest and most enduring debates in archaeology. The meaning of Paleolithic art. Is it art for art's sake? A simple human love of beauty and pattern? That seems unlikely. Every action in your life is steeped in purpose. Some scholars have argued that these geometric engravings are a form of proto-writing, a system for storing information. Others suggest they might be lunar calendars, a way of tracking the passage of seasons by the phases of the moon. The scientific evidence is maddeningly ambiguous. The patterns are clearly intentional, but their code is a language that has been lost for 50 millennia. As you watch the woman work, you suspect the meaning is tied to the stories. Perhaps the lines and patterns on the bone are a mnemonic device, a tactile map of the epic narrative the old man just told. Each set of lines might represent a verse, a character, a key event. By running her finger over the engraved surface, she can recall the story in its proper sequence, ensuring the living library of your people is passed on without error. It is a way of making memory tangible, of giving a story a physical body. It is the very first step on the long road to the written word. This is not decoration. This is data storage. It is an act of magic, memory, and profound meaning. A quiet but revolutionary declaration that a thought can exist outside the mind that thinks it. The woman with the engraved bone finishes her work, wrapping the object carefully in a piece of soft hide and tucking it away. A collective, unspoken signal seems to pass through the clan. The day is well and truly over. No more wood is added to the fire. The great roaring blaze that cooked the feast and illuminated the social gathering is allowed to starve. The tall, dancing flames shrink, pulling back into themselves. They flicker from yellow to a deep blood orange, then finally surrender, leaving only the deep, steady, and silent glow of the embers. The effect is immediate and dramatic. The circle of light, which had pushed the darkness back to the far corners of the shelter, now contracts, shrinking into a small, intimate pool of soft, red luminescence. The shadows, which had been vanquished for hours, come creeping back in. The high, vaulted ceiling of the cave dissolves into an unseen blackness above you. The familiar rock walls recede into a deep, impenetrable gloom. The world shrinks to this tiny, fragile island of warmth and faint light. Beyond the mouth of the shelter, the landscape has vanished completely, replaced by a solid wall of absolute, primal darkness. A darkness as deeper and more total than any modern person can truly conceive. There is no moon tonight, no ambient glow from a distant city. It is a perfect, profound blackness, and your small fire is the only candle burning in an immense, dark room. With this retreat of the light comes a profound psychological shift. The easy camaraderie and relaxed security of the evening begin to evaporate, replaced by a more ancient, instinctual vigilance. The world beyond your shrinking circle of light is no longer the landscape you hunted through today. It has transformed. It is now the other world, the night world, a realm of immense danger and profound mystery. It is a mainstream historical fact that one of the primary benefits of controlling fire was its role as a protective barrier against nocturnal predators. The fire is not just for warmth. It is a shield, a magical, shimmering wall that keeps the things with claws and teeth at bay. As the flames die, your shield feels terrifyingly thin. The silence of the camp allows the sounds of this other world to intrude. First, it comes from far away, the long, lonely, and utterly chilling howl of a wolf, a sound that speaks of hunger and the pack. It is a reminder that while you are settling in to digest your meal, the night shift has just clocked in. Their hunt is just beginning. Then a closer sound, the sharp, sudden screech of a nocturnal bird, perhaps an owl, as it snatches some small, unseen prey from the darkness. The sound is so unexpected it makes you jump, your heart hammering against your ribs. The quirky and almost certainly true idea is that for you, the night was not empty space, but a place that was full, populated not just by real predators, but by ghosts, spirits, and malevolent forces imagined in the terrifying, unblinking blackness. Then you hear the sound that every creature who has ever huddled in the dark fears most. From just beyond the shelter's entrance, there is a sharp, distinct snap of a twig breaking under a heavy foot. The entire clan freezes. Every head turns toward the darkness. Is it a cave lion, its curiosity finally overcoming its fear of your scent? Is it a hyena, bold and opportunistic? The scientific evidence for this constant nightly tension is found in the archaeological record itself. Fossil assemblages at cave sites often show a layer cake of occupation, with hominin tools and butchered bones alternating with the gnawed remains left by cave hyenas, proving that these shelters were contested territory, owned only by whoever was strongest or had the biggest fire. After a long silent moment of unbearable tension, there is no further sound. The creature, whatever it was, has moved on. Scholars still debate the full psychological impact of this nightly siege, and how the invention of reliable firelight may have fundamentally rewired our brains, creating the deep-seated archetypal fear of the dark that still haunts our modern children. The message of the night is clear. The day is yours, but the darkness belongs to the silent collective decision is made. The snap of the twig was the final punctuation mark on the day. One by one, and then all at once, the clan begins to retreat from the dying embers. You rise from your spot, your body a single unified ache, and turn your back on the fire. You move away from the shelter's mouth, away from the vast, listening darkness, and deeper into the familiar, musky air of the sleeping hollow. This is the final migration of the day, a journey of perhaps 20 feet, but it feels like crossing a continent, from the world of action and anxiety into the final harbor of rest. You find your place in the familiar human puzzle of the sleeping pile. It's the same spot you woke up in this morning, the slight depression in the earth already molded to the shape of your hip. You lower yourself to the ground with a quiet groan, the hard-packed earth a cruel reminder of the day's exertions. But then, you pull the great, heavy hide over you. It is the same stiff, smoky, gamey blanket from last night, but it no longer feels like a meager defense. Tonight, it is the flag of victory, a tangible piece of your success. Your brother settles in behind you, his back a warm, solid wall against yours. A small cousin curls into the space by your stomach. You are a piece of a living jigsaw puzzle, fitting yourself into the warm, breathing whole of your family. The immediate profound comfort is the shared body heat. The cold is still a predator, circling in the dark. But here, in the heart of this human huddle, you have created a small, defiant island of warmth. This is your oldest and most effective central heating system. It's a mainstream historical fact that for early humans, this kind of communal sleeping was a non-negotiable thermoregulatory strategy. Huddling together dramatically reduces the amount of body surface area each individual exposes to the cold air, conserving precious calories that would otherwise be spent just shivering to stay alive. Without this shared furnace of kinship, a night like this would be lethal. Your body finally, truly lets go. The last vestiges of the hunter's adrenaline, the tension of the stalk and the fight, all drain away, leaving a heavy, leaden exhaustion in their place. You can feel the day's efforts in every fiber of your being, a deep, satisfying weariness that goes all the way to your bones. Your mind, which has been a whirlwind of calculation, observation, and fear all day, is finally quiet. It is filled with simple, powerful, and deeply comforting thoughts. the image of the rhino falling, the sight of the fire roaring, the rich, fatty taste of the meat, and most powerfully, the feeling of your full stomach, a warm, dense, and reassuring weight that is the ultimate symbol of security in your world. The scientific reality of this state is the complete dominance of your parasympathetic nervous system. After a day spent in a fight-or-flight state, fueled by adrenaline and cortisol, the huge influx of calories has triggered the rest and digest response. Your heart rate slows, your muscles relax, and your body focuses all its energy on healing and absorbing the bounty you have provided it. Archaeologists still debate the specific arrangement of these sleeping sites. Were they structured, with specific families claiming specific spots night after night? Or were they more opportunistic, a simple, non-hierarchical huddle for warmth? Looking at the familiar shapes around you, it feels less like a rule and more like a deep, unspoken instinct to be close to your own. A quirky and compelling idea is that the sound of the group itself, the soft, rhythmic, synchronized breathing of your sleeping family, acts as a natural lullaby, a subconscious reassurance that you are safe, you are surrounded, you are not alone. It is the final, gentle wave that pulls you under into the deep, dark, and dreamless sleep of the utterly exhausted and the profoundly safe. You are falling, not through the air, but through layers of yourself. The immense, bone-deep weariness of your body finally dissolves, the aches and pains of the long day melting away into a feeling of weightless release. The warmth of the human huddle, the faint, musky scent of your family, the solid presence of your brother's back, it all fades into a gentle, background hum. You are untethered now, a lone consciousness drifting in the warm, black, and silent ocean behind your own eyes. You are letting go of the waking world and beginning your journey into the dream time. The darkness does not last. The ground begins to thunder. You are running again, back in the basin, but your legs are impossibly slow, thick, and heavy, as if you are trying to sprint through deep, clinging mud. The rhino is there, not as a creature of flesh and blood, but as an idea of fury, a mountain of shadow and rage that blots out the strange, colorless light of the dreamscape. You can feel its hot breath, smell its primal fury. You raise your spear to throw, but in your hand it is no longer a tool of wood and stone. It writhes and twists, becoming a slick, black snake that coils around your wrist. The terror is a cold, sharp spike in your gut, as real as any fear you felt in the waking world. Yet a part of you is a calm, detached observer, watching the impossible scene unfold. This is your mind's nightly chore, chewing on the day's most powerful moments, trying to digest their meaning. The scientific evidence from modern sleep labs confirms this inner reality. During our REM sleep, your brain is wildly active, especially in the emotional and memory processing centers, replaying, remixing, and consolidating the experiences that matter most. The rhino's furious charge slows, its form wavering like smoke. Its small, hate-filled eye softens, widens, and becomes the calm, familiar eye of your grandfather, the elder who died 2 winters ago when he was gored by a wild boar. He looks at you from within the dream beast, and though his mouth does not move, you feel his presence, his approval. It is a feeling of deep, quiet pride that warms you more profoundly than any physical fire. This is not a memory. This is a visitation. It is a mainstream historical fact that your people have begun to treat their dead with profound symbolic care. Intentional burials, some containing elaborate grave goods like thousands of hand-carved ivory beads or layers of red ochre, have been found at sites like Sunghir in modern-day Russia. Such complex rituals are the unmistakable signature of a people who believe the dead are not truly gone, but have simply moved to another layer of reality, a spirit world that can, and does, intersect with your own, most often in dreams. His face dissolves, not into nothing, but into a shower of brilliant, glowing red lines. They are the same cross-hatched, geometric patterns you saw the woman painting on the bone by the firelight. The patterns pulse and breathe, forming shifting tunnels and intricate, web-like lattices that you seem to fly through. A quirky and compelling theory in the study of early art suggests that many of these abstract geometric designs are not arbitrary decorations, but are literal depictions of entoptic phenomena, the neurological light shows of dots, lines, and grids that are generated by the brain itself in altered states of consciousness, from a deep shamanic trance to the simple hypnagogic state of falling asleep. You are seeing the raw, geometric source code of your own visual system. For you, the line between the dream world and the spirit world is not just thin, it is an illusion. Neuroarchaeologists and cognitive scientists still debate how our ancestors perceived and utilized these altered states. Were dreams just the random, passive firings of a sleeping brain? Or were they actively interpreted, even sought out, as a vital source of information and spiritual connection? To you, this is not a debate. The dream is real. The messages you receive here, the warning of the spear that turned to a snake, the blessing of the ancestor, the meaning hidden in the glowing patterns, are real pieces of intelligence that will inform your actions when you wake. It is a second life you live each night, a parallel reality where the rules of the world are fluid and the spirits of the dead can give you counsel. The images begin to soften now, the patterns fade, the voices recede. You are drifting deeper, past the frantic storytelling of the dream time, into the silent, profound, and utterly restorative darkness of the mind's deepest cave. You have come home. And so your day, a single, ordinary day from 50,000 years ago, finally comes to its gentle and complete conclusion. The hunter and the gatherer, the artist and the storyteller, all of the people you have been today, now dissolve back into the quiet, sleeping form of a single, distant ancestor, a survivor who struggles with the very foundation of your own existence. Let the faint, ghostly echo of the Ice Age wind fade away now. Let the memory of the roaring fire and the taste of the roasted meat recede, replaced by the soft, familiar sounds of your own room, the gentle rustle of your own sheets. There are no predators lurking in the shadows here, no profound existential cold waiting to steal your warmth. There is only the deep peace of a night earned not by the sharp point of a spear, but by the simple, quiet act of listening to a story. Allow your own mind to drift now, to let go of the day's tensions, carried on the slow, easy current of your own breath. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the comfort of your bed, a luxury of softness and security your ancient counterpart could never have imagined. The story is over. The fire is out. The ancient world can sleep now, and so can you.